it Tuesday or Tuesday? Man, shout out to Unsung Heroes of
Shout out
Rock.
to Unsung Heroes of Rock. What are they doing? What's going on with Unsung Heroes? They should fucking do some... it's COVID, innit? We can't do anything with bands.
Nothing, mate.
You're not allowed to sing, are you? Did you hear that?
No.
Right, what you fucking won't hear, all this Rule Britannia bollocks, right? On one side, nobody in Black Lives Matter or the modern civil rights movement at all are calling for Rule Britannia not to be sung.
Oh shit,
Right.
no, I'd seen that, yeah, because the BBC were umming and ahhing about whether or not they were going to take it off the proms.
Yeah, well, they're just taking the singing off. So the right are like, oh, look at these snowflakes, they're trying to curtail our rights and rewrite history. And the left are like, we don't care. And the whole thing's not because anybody asked for it, it's because of COVID, they're not doing any singing at the proms. It's just instrumental.
I have a rant I want to throw in about that shit.
Throw in.
I fucking hate this snowflake stuff because there's an irony built around it.
Oh my god, I love the irony in it.
And it's the worst bit is that any person who is standing up and using this snowflake debacle is the snowflake in the situation, because the only time it seems to be getting thrown out, like, you see people, someone will put something up or something, everyone's open to having political rants, etc., on these stuff. They'll say something and then suddenly everybody will get pissed off about it, and you always have this one person who then starts cracking up and going, oh, snowflakes, not happy with the post and shit and all this other stuff, but then not bearing in mind the fact that that person wasn't initially offended. They've just seen a point that's been put up and thrown their own opinion in response back to said person, who's then got offended and started calling everybody a snowflake because somebody's come back to their shit opinion with a credible argument that's then made them have to then go, oh shit, someone's come back to me, when, I don't know, maybe you've turned around and just gone, I have a problem with people that like to use Velcro to wipe their ass with, and then people who like to wipe their ass with Velcro will turn around and go, no, there's a credible reason why. I don't like the fact of what you just said.
Explain the reason for me, Dom, because, like, just give me that answer. What is the answer? Why don't you like to use Velcro?
Oh, I like using Velcro, mate. It hits that deep itch.
Mate, are you bald?
No, I've just got a lot. I've got a lot of anal irritation, if you will. But anyway, this whole thing with fucking snowflakes and shit, man, it just seems like it's got to the point now where you're not allowed to have an opinion, but the one thing I think it seems to be the main issue, where I say some people going, oh, I'm not allowed to have an opinion about things, it's not that so much. It's down to the fact that people can't bear in mind the fact that they have an opinion, but you are within your rights to have said opinion. However, it's down to you to choose what forum you express said opinion out on. And if you openly state an opinion in a public forum, doesn't matter what it is, could be on Reddit, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, the worst ones to do it on, because you're able to openly state it to the entire world, you are then asking for that response to come back to you.
Yeah.
If you didn't want somebody to come back with towards
different opinion.
Yeah, don't put it out to people who would give that fucking thing, which is the entire world. I've done shit. I've posted on Reddit before, and I was like, oh, this is a good idea for this thing I was posting. It was an unpopular opinion. Can't fucking remember what it was. It's like 3 years ago. I thought I was really standing on my point. This unpopular opinion was fucking sound.
Yeah.
It's something to do with cheese. It's the closest thing I can remember. Twist agreed with me. I was like, yeah, and people are going to come back and be like, yeah, I'm on you in this. And people attacked the shit out of me. To which I was like, no, fair enough. But you expect that.
Yeah.
So you can't go in an open forum and state something. Here's a good one. When it was one of these fucking local chat things again, one of these chat groups, their local neighbourhoody shit, somebody put up something about immigrants.
Right.
Something to do with there was a recent news article saying that people were being forced onto the boats. They had no choice where they were going. They'd paid money to somebody to take them out of their own country, taken somewhere better. They're not told where they're going. They just get taken, thrown in places, moved around, dropped off, because the smugglers only get paid once the people make it to... once the people are on the boat, they don't get paid until they're actually out on the way. Kind of thing. They get them in the boat, they push them out, they get paid when they're off onto their final leg of the journey.
Right.
That's when they get the money on. Now, somebody put up a thing going, oh, well, if they didn't want to be here, like, well, it's something to do with like they don't want to be here yet because of this whole thing with COVID and stuff. They had to house a lot of people in hotels, 5-star hotels, whatever they could kind of funnel into. And he's saying that practically, they're saying illegal immigrants to some degree help save a lot of hotel chains.
All right.
To which I was like, you'd think that was a smart thing, but this guy's then followed that up with saying, well, maybe we can save the airlines by sending all the fuckers back.
Oh.
I was like, but then said person has received such a fucking backlash onslaught. Me personally attacked him on things, and then this person's coming back going, you're all fucking snowflakes. And I'm like, if you're offended that people kicked off with you, you're the one flaking. Other people have just turned around and gone, no, there's more, you're outnumbered, less racist on here than there are of you.
Yeah, you're a rarity. And sometimes I think it's people that are looking for an excuse to show their opinion on that. Like, they find something that is logical enough to appeal to them, because a lot of racist ideas are really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And nearly everyone knows they're really stupid.
Yeah.
But, like, when you twist logic around and make it sound like, oh, look, we can save our airlines, somebody jumps on it and you're like, all that means is you care about Richard Branson more than immigrants.
Yeah.
You think that immigrants are a bigger problem than Richard Branson.
And then not identifying the fact that them making those remarks makes them the problem that we're already trying to battle against.
Yeah.
Bear in mind that the guy did openly state, at no point said he was joking. He just got aggressive, like his opinion had been challenged.
Yeah.
He says it all. If the guy had turned around at that point and gone, because I'd have done this and gone, obviously, bit of a joke, went down incorrectly. I've done stupid things out in the past. Something seems funny before it goes out in public, and then you go, shit.
Sometimes I go on my memories on Facebook and I'm like, I just used really bad language. Like, I just threatened to bum someone just publicly on Facebook or something, just like stupid shit.
18-year-old me started going on social media, Facebook specifically, and replacing the word "the" with "le." Is anybody going to le pub?
Yes, of course.
Is anybody going to... Yeah, that level of stuff all the time. No.
There's loads of old political stuff on there, and I think I'm not yet old enough to be like, that's so naive. So I'm like, no, I'm just talking about the war in Iraq being a big fuckery and...
Oh, mate, God forbid if my MSN records ever resurface. I look back on some of the shit I used to come out of as a child. I know for a fact where most of it came from. I will openly state out on the fact that I used to have a little devilish racist inside.
Did you?
But... when I reflect back on most of the times when this was a thing, it was the people I was surrounded by. Because they say racism, you don't grow into racism.
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah, it's something taught. And I know for a fact because, say, certain people I was working for back time, certain people you're working around, when you're in a certain environment, that shit gets created. Because when you've got, say, your peers, like, people you look up to, people that in some way you respect, you take on their opinion because these people you respect, you start taking on their opinions as your own because they're going, well, this person I respect has this point of view.
And he's explained it well.
I should reflect back in this and stuff because, it just fucking, it's what happens. I grew out of that, being no longer in that environment. I've come to my senses further down the line on my own accord. But that shit happens. But you don't have to be able to own up to it on the facts.
Yeah, you have to change your mind when you're presented with evidence that is compelling enough to make you change your mind,
Yeah, the people in question, I will openly state out on the fact that they were, I won't call them white supremacists, but of that mentality and stuff, because one of them had, like, Third Reich tattoos and stuff on him and stuff, where I think he was he was an oldish bloke. I'm not going to throw names out or anything, but the stuff comes out, respected the man a lot. I was young, I was impressionable, and those people are what make an impact on you. I try to make an impact as it starts. Like, I've gone 30. I make a personal impact on anybody I come into contact with who's younger than me, I used to, not train interns, but part train interns when I was working in the animal industry, or the zoo industry, because part and parcel, you try to pass, if you are within some professional degree, some professional manner, you kind of have a responsibility, if you want to be a professional in a certain industry, to help pass on any knowledge you feel relevant to people beneath you.
Yeah.
But you are responsible for what you pass on.
Yeah, totally. And people will pass on racist behaviours as well. Like people who are It's people who are in a shitty situation and want someone to blame for it.
Yeah.
And at some point in life, they've been told, "Oh, you can blame immigrants, or you can blame people who wear turbans, or whoever. You can blame Jews if you want." Like that just gets passed on to them at some point, and they want someone to blame. So they're still clearly mad about something. I think with a lot of things, it's trying to make the person come around to the idea that life can actually be quite good, and that problems just happen and they're out there. It's the whole universe is out there. You can try and pursue whatever thing you want. You can be like, "Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire when I grow up," and then you don't get to be one, and then you get bitter about it. But the whole universe is out there while you're making your plans, doing stuff.
Yeah.
And like you're in the entire universe.
It's down to you to make shit happen of your own
Yeah,
accord.
yeah. But even if you do, some shit can, and that happens, and that's fine. It can be difficult, but it's even the most perfect life must have its share of suffering. It's you can't escape the universe.
It's like they say, it builds character, if you will. I can openly state I would not be the person I am today without going through a lot of struggles.
Yeah, and I think if it makes you be like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to do that to other people because I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Then that's that's a good way of going about it, rather than sort of a reactionary anger and then trying to find somewhere to put that blame.
Yeah.
Where can you put it? Like,
saying that as well, I can saying, and this is the ironic thing about being having a racist, sort of being not bred into a racist, but being within that environment and then picking up some of the mannerisms. You're right, dude. Liqueur caught you out.
Yeah, man. That
Did it tequila your throat?
It's tequila, mate. It's not liqueur. It's tequila.
Yeah.
Stop calling it a liqueur. Oh no, it says coffee liqueur on it.
See, misleading that shit.
But it is. The tequila's supposed to be really nice as well, and the bottle's just amazing, isn't it? And it tastes, and it's sickly thick and sweet, and
exactly.
But you got to be careful with it because it is still tequila.
Like, just minus the tequila.
Yeah, you could salt it, and then it'd be like a salted caramel sort of thing. Slammer with a bit of lemon. Oh no, what would you do with coffee? You'd do sugar instead of salt. That'd be killer though. No need to do that. Maybe chili. Maybe something spicy.
Spicy coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause it's got kind of that chocolatey vibe as well, hasn't
You
it?
can have to sell me on that, mate.
Salted coffee. Did I say salted coffee? I did, didn't I? Yeah, that is pretty unjustifiable. I've heard some people do it, and I've heard that it does really bring the taste of your coffee out. Like salt does in a meal. Like just the right, not too much salt, just makes everything pop a little bit, doesn't it? All the flavors
that might depend on the very degree of your coffee. If it's like instant coffee, you're gonna get a lot different.
This is Patron XO, motherfucker. Like it's got XO in the name. Do you know XO Cafe?
Shamelessly plug in.
Shamelessly plug in. Can you imagine a sponsorship from Patron?
Oh,
Gangster as mate. Bottles of that. Oh, I'd like it. I would like it. But
yeah, Patron, hit up Radical Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Drop down
I've
for a
got,
sponsorship.
5 listeners at least at this point. Definitely Patron.
Well, mate, you might carry it. You never know, a bit of marketing and stuff.
Yeah, maybe I'll try not to say as many controversial things and really bow down to the man so I can get that Patron XO.
No, fuck that, man.
That's what's going to turn me, mate. I'm selling out.
Any company with a sense doesn't back people who follow the status quo and shit, man.
That's true.
The reason why YouTube is so popular is because it's that open forum kind of state. There are obviously some limitations to extremities, but you're within your right to have your... Again, it's like we were saying before about opinions and shit and these snowflake things. You're within your right to have your opinion and put it out there.
That's on trial at the minute, isn't it? With Assange. He's in court at the moment. Day 3 of Assange in court. He's only said a couple of things. The judge asked him, this aired on the first day, the judge asked him, do you consent to be extradited to the United States of America? And this is all Julian Assange said throughout the whole day. He just went, no. Like at that point, it's like you're supposed to.
He was carried out of the fucking embassy. I watched the video.
It was amazing. Like that's going to be quite a historical piece of footage, I think.
Their entire situation's fucked up, and I still remember hearing about the fact that Hillary Clinton, within one of these meetings, because she was Secretary of State and stuff, like she was in one of these fucking meetings. I don't know what it would be called, where she was trying to push an opinion that she about just drone striking Assange when he was on the balcony at
Shit,
the
yeah,
Ecuadorian
yeah.
embassy, and that being like, Christ, why would it's a world leader for God's sake?
She would do it. She's killed loads of allegedly.
But saying that though, and this is something I was thinking we'd get into later. But fuck it, let's rip off the plaster. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein, the fucking Clintons.
Yeah.
Let's devil into paedophilia in the
Oh,
high
man.
tower, man.
I mean, it's just so dark. Like I watched this guy who's he like knows a bit about old British families, like old the structures of that, and he suspects that one of his relatives, I can't remember if his dad or his granddad, was a failed aristocratic bloodline. And he was saying what you have is you have the aristocratic bloodline, and you have the people who are trying to get into the aristocratic society at the level of being allowed into the breeding club.
Yeah.
And this isn't like one particular race or anything. This is just the aristocracy and the intelligence agencies and wealthy people. And they're not cool cats, and they want leverage over each other, and they want to be able to blackmail people into doing things. So if you want to enter the aristocratic bloodline, you have to be compromised by the aristocratic bloodline, so that if you ever speak out against them, they can just ruin your life. Which there is a lot of evidence that Epstein was working with intelligence.
Oh,
and
mate.
it was.
We're fucking so much about this shit that even to the point, I remember seeing this was something Facebook related again. I'll always point out the fact that I went off Facebook for a long time, and for good reason, and the fact because I am one of these attacky people where if I see something stupid online, I have to fucking say something.
Yeah.
I have to kind of go, you're missing something partial here, and it was a comment thread, something following from Ghislaine Maxwell, and I said. It was something to do with, no, it wasn't Ghislaine Maxwell, it was something else. It was something to do with COVID, and it was saying about it being the fact of stupid conspiracy shit to do with COVID thing. And then they were pointing out some other things to do with fact. He's saying that none of these conspiracy theories are right and stuff. And I just wrote down a comment just to state out on the fact, but do you realise that this whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein, which has now come out into the public light now, has been a renowned conspiracy theory. Far belonged when he initially got arrested back in like 2007, 2008, somewhere around then.
Like that.
I did what getting these people, and like Dave said to me afterwards, I didn't realise it was, and I was like, yeah, it's been long known about for a long fucking time, and everyone just laughed at it, saying it's ludicrous.
I laughed at it. Like I remember reading, there's a pedo island. And I was like, don't be ridiculous.
Oh, I've always believed shit
back in
this.
well, no, but I'm talking like back in 2002 or something, or I don't know when like the first time I heard it, I was like, that's a ridiculous idea, and got on with my life. But then after getting older and getting into politics, getting interested in politics and stuff.
I said to my father-in-law about it there because he's saying he's had his opinions. He has his opinions about stuff. I won't go into it. I'm not going to develop a fucking character, build of him and shit. But I said to him in conversation about the fact that I think the main issue for people to comprehend on the fact is that they don't want to accept the reality of the situation, because once the veil is pulled back on something like this, it's that fear, it's that lack of safety when you know that, say, so far up the ladder, especially in areas especially in political seats and stuff like this, to know that there's this compromise, to know that your kids are not safe because of shit going on and stuff, and it's just that it's so surreal and hard to accept that this something so horrendous could actually be a realistic thing. I think a lot of people don't want to accept it sometimes, even when it's being dangled in front of their face. Yeah. You've got like a 9/11 and shit like that. It's common opinion, even among people, even people who you wouldn't expect it. Like say they've got negative view, they've got an opposing view towards everything, but 9/11 comes up, which would be the kind of thing that they'd also jump on and be like, no, it's bullshit. But even they're going, yeah, it doesn't make sense and shit. And then you look at some of this stuff that's going on now, and again, it's that kind of thing. You don't want to accept the reality that government, higher, top of the fucking tier business, even broader than that, that it's something that exists. Because if you think about the prospect of what this now means, that more information and more veils have been pulled off, everyone used to joke, I think back in the day when Zeitgeist was the main informer, everyone saw that it changed so many people's opinions and stuff when this information was put out there with a lot of stuff. And since Zeitgeist, it's no longer just the Illuminati, because then people have become broader to the sense of going, it's not one group, it's several different things, societies, mixtures and shit. You don't know in what way they're connected, but they're all separate groups, which means that it isn't just a case of there is one person at the top pulling the strings, when everybody used to think it was fucking, not Rockefeller.
Rothschild.
Yeah. He's just one of many.
He's one of them. Yeah, he is just one. And I think it's quite old families, largely, and I think it's been going on for a while. And I think it makes people feel like the whole world's like that, if that's true. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's not. People have just got to realise that there's a small group of people, like 3,500 people.
Yeah.
That are at the top of most of the things that we've mentioned now, like the banks, the Rothschilds, the Queen, the royals, like all big business, people at the top of intelligence, people at the top of those industries, they are all working together, and it's because they're all fraternal brothers and stuff like that. You know, they've got this bond, and part of that bond is having ultimate power. The higher ups, I imagine, having ultimate power over the lower downs. But then also, as well as those 3,500 people, you've got their operatives, you've got their employees who are on the take for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they'll all be compromised. So what you're looking at is the sort of managerial level of that organisation, which is in many different areas. The management are probably all compromised. So that if they ever speak out against the higher ups can ruin their lives.
Well, even the higher ups are going to be compromised. They're all going to be compromised in some manner.
Who's
so
at the
everyone,
top?
even the person at the very top of the fucking tower,
It's compromised is Satan.
well, I think they'll be compromised against somebody else. And again,
yes, to ensure
But if I was at the very top of these towers, I'd have some fucking dirt. Saying that, you wouldn't even need the dirt. If you're at the top of the tower, you have all the information on the other fucking tower on the other side of the valley that you've been throwing rocks at, because they're throwing rocks back at you, and you've got the same shit.
There'll be feuds. I think that there are power moves going on at the moment. I think there is a feud happening in 2020 of some description. Whether there are actually any white hats involved at all, I don't know. Or is it just this big? Because since Zeitgeist, it's been almost like an alternate reality game that's been playing the whole time of conspiracy, internet conspiracies. Like, it's been running since then, and a little before probably. But and people saying stuff about the government doing war crimes online and stuff like that.
I tried to explain to my partner about WikiLeaks, because she's saying, like, she's jumped on the extreme end of saying, well, you can't trust anything, which is fucking sound. Is like, but I think when you got people like Donald Trump who constantly saying fake media, that within his rights, he was right to extent that, you know, distrust the media and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Personally, I think he mainly did it because he, like, his PR person was probably like, right, mate, from the get go, there's gonna be crap coming out about you.
Well, someone
you need
clearly
to tell
doesn't
them,
like him.
Well, this
for
is
that to happen, you know.
But no, I don't even think it's that. Think about somebody when you get into certain positions of power, or when you become something that of a position that will command some attention and respect. I imagine that you first have to sit in a room, like when you get accepted in for this shit, I bet you have to sit in a room with somebody who's going to sit in front of you and go, right, you need to tell me every stupid fucking thing you have done in your entire life, because we need to prepare for that getting pulled out and used against you. Anything you don't tell me about now is going to be harder for us to prepare for, because they'll probably develop little files and packs and shit, because it'll be somebody's job to fucking get on board with that. And like, there's always going to be that case. I can't, like, I'm imagining, say, some actors, I imagine, have to go through it with their agents and shit, because you have to that extent, it's like, I want to make money from you. I'm going to lose money if you make me look stupid for fucking putting money behind you. I need to prepare for anything stupid you've done. Because there has been scandals in kickoffs before where, you know, like agents, management companies turn around going, we were never aware of this and stuff, otherwise we wouldn't have worked with this person, kind of thing. So I imagine, like, Trump's had to do the same.
Yeah, I suppose so. And maybe he just pisses off, maybe just because he's not high enough up in the club to be president. maybe, and he just sort of did it anyway. Maybe they just don't like him for that.
I imagine he's probably that guy who's not the most popular person because I think that I reckon he was involved with Epstein
Careful
to
now,
a degree.
allegedly.
I've
Just sprinkle those allegedlys in there, mate.
yeah, you never know, man. It's like alleged. You've got to allege everything these days. You never know who's just gonna get angry and suddenly go, "Oh, they've just made an opinion about me. I'm gonna sue them for shit."
Yeah.
Let me bollock them by taking the wallet away. But this whole thing with Donald Trump creating this whole fake media thing, I think initially, that was him just trying to cover his back on the fucking trail to the presidency.
Yeah.
I reckon at least PR manager that's just been like, just say this shit.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of stupid shit. Someone's gonna speak out. Let's just prepare for it. We can tailgate shit back
Let's
a bit.
lean into it, as they say.
Yeah, all you've got to do is just...
Come on.
You've created deniability by already saying that the media bullshit a lot, and with his following stuff, that they all do it and things.
It's true.
It's had a ripple effect, though, because even people who dislike Trump, they take it on as a valid opinion, going, you can't trust anything. And there's been other shit come out and things, but then there's also been other issues with the media and stuff, which has created a bit of an issue now where, say, you would depend on things like WikiLeaks.
They're being prosecuted.
Yeah, but I mean, you depend on things like WikiLeaks to actually get the information real out, rather than say what information the newsreader has been allowed to say, or the editor is allowed to be passed out to the paper. But she's like, well, you can't trust WikiLeaks. How do you know that they aren't making shit up?
You say, motherfucker.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about it. I mean, you can say, I have to turn around and say, well, these documents put out and stuff, they have all the official markings of things, etc., to show they are, they actually are what they are. And
They've never had to print one retraction.
Yeah.
Not once.
But she's one within that realm of going, well, you can't trust that yet. But then you point out, well, why did the government come down so heavily on him for this shit? Why did he have to go run off into an embassy and hide?
Yeah.
And
for years.
It was like, I think things like WikiLeaks were a good step forward to saving the world, and it pulling the veil back on a lot of shit like the war crimes, the things the US government's been covering up and stuff.
Yeah. In the weird boundary between analog and digital, sort of, and, regular and broadband and MySpace and Facebook.
Oh, was the original viral, bro?
MySpace was like the Wild West of Facebook, really, wasn't it, in a way, of social media. Anyway.
I would compare it against the commune. In MySpace gathered a lot of like-minded people together who their interests were being alternative and music.
Finding new music.
Yeah,
and shit.
being all about surveys and just collecting friends and stuff and making networking, because it was back in the days where you made a friend of every of the like 10,000 people, but you actually spoke to him.
Yeah.
I've had mates across the US, I had mates in Japan, I knew people in Russia, a couple of people in Australia, there was 2 guys from Brazil. That was MySpace. On Facebook, that all fucking dissipated.
Mate, it changed completely because MySpace wasn't about advertising and stuff, was it? And it wasn't about algorithms as well. Like, MySpace just showed you what every one of your friends had posted, really, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a feed and stuff, and you had the ability to be able to customize everything. Like, your page could be... I used to hate smell the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But I would compare it, social media as being what started as a commune on MySpace.
Yeah.
And these people...
commune then, what is it now?
The like-minded people came together with a really good idea. They were the hippies of the digital age.
Yeah.
They were like, man... I just want to make a commune where we all just share together. We just share things and ideas, and we build on things, and everyone just, there's no money. Everyone just trades skills. And then.
Said that on everyone's MySpace, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, and then
at least at some point.
Facebook, then I would say before the way you had MySpace, there was a couple of other ones that started as well, and people tried to get on with them. They were like wannabe communes and stuff. It saw this commune had started, and they were like, man, I like that idea, but I don't want to be one of those guys. I want to make my own.
Music either.
No,
they didn't. Like, MySpace music was amazing. I found loads. I found weird acts in Belgium, and weird acts from like Africa and France.
I discovered I discovered bands on there I would have never discovered through Kerrang and shit. Who they hadn't made it big. They were just on there. But besides that fact and shit, commune, I think.
But then
So-
what happened to MySpace? What did they do? It was just Facebook came along.
Well, this is the thing.
Wasn't
The
it?
commune got really popular. So what happened was, one of the other communes was a bit more successful setting up because they had prettier housing.
Well, they had a different method as well. It's people you know on Facebook, innit?
Yeah.
Whereas MySpace was anyone. Facebook was like
But
people you
Facebook brought you games. See, I found Facebook when it was in its original stage, back when it was just specifically for one of the colleges or something. It was like the original version of it because I made a dick of myself. Because I joined this Facebook thing when I found it, and there was fuck all of anybody on there. There was like 17 people, so I joined it anyway. And then I messaged one of the other people because they were online, and it's just like, mate, how'd you put music on your profile? Look like a complete bellend. But you're 16, naive. Well, you're 16, I'm not even 50 now. I'll
Should
probably
be
go
able to put
16.
music on your profile.
But the that was Facebook as a commune. The thing, it got a bit more popular and stuff because it started evolving games. And then what happened was that commune, capitalism happened, and then it swelled, and then everybody just got pulled into this metropolis of like networking and collectivity,
Including the wealthy and the conspirators at the top there. You know, they were like,
Yeah.
right, here's the thing. As capitalism came in, it was, you know, probably at their hand.
Did you know Tom from MySpace has his own special Facebook profile?
Does he?
Yeah, it might not be still special because he's updated it. I just one day I was sat there and I was like, you know what? Let's see if Tom from MySpace is on fucking Facebook. Let's Google it. He has his own special Facebook page, it's different to everybody else's and stuff. It basically says, "Hi, I am the Tom that was from MySpace." Has his picture there, you know, the old MySpace.
Classic.
He was always your first friend, and he's he's just after MySpace. 'Cause I think he just made so much money. He's just a photographer now. He just just travels around taking photographs. This is a guy. I'd like to meet him, man. He's grounded. He was the creator of something that has practically just ripped the world apart. And it sounds negative. I love Tom. I mean, he was the genius. He created something megalithical.
And then capitalism came and Facebooked him.
But he still seems to have remained humble as far as I'm aware, unless he's been, somebody turned up and offered him to come to Epstein's party and he got buggered by a 2-year-old.
Would you like to know the secrets of the universe? Give us 10 years and we'll make you do terrible things. And each time you do a terrible thing, we'll tell you a bit more.
Going back on about this whole thing with Epstein and stuff, there's a relevant point I think that is worth making to people about. You got a bottle open? Oh, there we go. I think there's a relevant point I want to bring up to people that I think is a good point to make. That people should bear in mind as this Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein thing moves forward. So the problem is, every single person, every single name that now comes up for the foreseeable future, before there's any information out, they are going to get smear campaigned as being a fucking paedophile, being a horrific,
That's going
horrible
to happen
person.
to at least a couple of people probably before Ghislaine either dies or goes to trial or...
But I think that what people need to bear in mind is you're going to have to be patient rather than just immediately throwing out the accusations. There's going to be two levels of people in this. There's going to be people like the Clintons, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Because I don't know, it just strikes me as though they were quite involved in it in some kind of manner. Just from information that's come out, it alleges a lot. Yeah, pictures and shit. But this whole thing, it's like there's two groups of people. You got people that are like what on the par of what people would see how the level of what the Clintons were involved in, like maybe abusing the situation. Just from the information, it seems like that's what is the case allegedly. But then you got the other people who were the victims of the situation, who were trapped because a lot of names have come up like Oprah Winfrey and shit like that. And some people you do look at and kind of go, I can't really see it myself. I imagine they may have been more thingy than anything else. But
if they're at the top of their game, and especially in like entertainment, there will be plenty of people at the top of their game in entertainment that are compromised, and all different kinds of media. It's all right, that isn't it? That's Green Acre Cider 2019, made from Discovery apples.
different.
6.6 ABV. and it's lovely, and it's all homemade, handmade.
It's different
Goodness.
having a proper side of it still.
Mm.
It's not fizzy.
Mm.
But yeah, this whole fucking thing, like a lot of people are going to get tarnished, they're going to get their careers crippled. And
Yeah.
the painful thing is that for the vast majority of them, they are victims of the situation.
Yeah, I think it you know, if the truth does come out, then hopefully those people will be vindicated.
Hopefully,
having
yeah.
not been involved. But I don't know if you're like. There's got to be some people in Hollywood. Hollywood is, you know, a bit known for it. Did you see? You don't hear about this on the news at all. I haven't heard about it on the news once, and I think it happened maybe a month ago now.
Yeah.
In the middle, while all Epstein stuff's going on, all this sort of high-level paedophilia is getting like aired. It's like coming out in the open a little. While all that's happening, and the news is already being pretty slow about reporting it.
Yeah.
Vice President of Disney got 7 years for child abuse. Alleged.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the exact charge was. It was child
Allegedly.
related. Allegedly. I don't want to get that wrong. I'm pretty sure 7 years for some kind of abuse of a child.
Yeah.
And that's not. I didn't hear that on the news once.
This is the fucking thing, though. That there is a lot. There is too much. When they say the free, like, protection and free press and all this other stuff, the problem is the free press isn't free because people get this information and they're not allowed to put it out there. So things are known about, but 90% of the time you are only told what the people who are reporting the news are allowed to tell you.
Yeah.
And then they'll get threatened for coming to the Reddit, and then they're going to the Reddit, well, can you put it on? They're going, well, you can't for whatever reason.
You can't, it's not legally viable. They've got a superinjunction. Do you remember? I think the first time I heard that word was when Imogen, what's the face out of Big Brother? She had a superinjunction out on her that she couldn't talk about her ex, who was like a footballer or something. And they reported it. It came out in the press. Came out through Twitter, I think. No, I must have heard it before then. But yeah, it came out through Twitter. And the press then reported on it after that. But the reason they couldn't report on it was because it had a superinjunction put on it. And that was, I heard that word. And that's like, if you talk about it in the press, you will be legally pursued for quite heavy damages, like a lot of money. Like, you're not allowed to talk about something that's got a superinjunction on it.
Oh, because some stuff can be like defamation, things like that.
Well,
There's another word for it.
It was adultery or something. Do you know what I mean? It was just someone buying that power from the courts.
There's a word, I can't remember what the term is.
It probably is, yeah, like, because it would be...
Johnny Depp's thing at the moment, with him being in court, there's something to do with that. I can't remember, there's a word for it. I can't for the life of me remember it. It's quite a... that's doing my head in not being able to think of that now. Hopefully whoever's listening to this will go, oh, I know what he means.
Yeah, you know what Don means.
Yeah.
Let's carry on. We may as well just stop talking.
Throw the word in the comments, enlighten everybody else who's on the line with me right now. It's either doesn't know or the brain farting. But I was going to say Pilates then, but it's not that. But yeah, it's weird. To be fair, that is good though, to an extent that he can have that protection from the media, because it's to some degree it is.
Yeah, I mean that's for an
horrendous.
affair. Like, who gives a fuck? But when
You got to think
when
who's
it's
the
like,
affair with.
it was a footballer, I'm sure, or she was going out with a footballer and she had an affair with someone. Oh, maybe the affair was with someone a bit higher up. Actually, maybe they're a bit of a Jacob Rees-Mogg. I'd say he's definitely in the gang. We could call him the gang. That'd
Yeah, fuck it, let's go with the gang.
It's what reptilians is, you know. It's a word for people in a disparate field of work and pursuit that all work together because they're all either compromised or part of a very old bloodline family. You know, the allegedly, no, in fact, a European monarch is suspected currently by the media and the US judicial system to have been a bit more involved with Jeffrey Epstein than he says he is. You know, that is not an allegedly. I don't think an allegedly is needed in that. That is correct. Prince Andrew has had that happen to him.
I was about to say it, and you're just on about Prince Andrew.
Yeah. Like, I think I can do that without an allegedly, really.
Well, this is the thing. It's already come out, and
He's under
people.
suspicion.
No one's using fucking the word allegedly when it comes to anything to do with him now. I've even watched a couple of things where there was psychiatrists that do a lot of body language reading and stuff. they were like not like a reaction video, but they were commentating on one of the Prince Andrew's video interview the interview he did when he
Like a
about
body
Epstein.
language thing, or
Yeah, and they were going on because one of them was like reading his heart rate and stuff. There was other ones he was just reading like any micro like movements and stuff, things like that. And like they were saying, like he was tensing up and shit, and he was doing like all his language and stuff. Everything that was kind of showing of him and stuff. It seemed like he'd just been abandoned in sense, and he was. There was a lot of like what they think it was his decision to have the interview and not someone else's. Like,
he
but
thought
people
he
were
could do
telling
it.
him no. Yeah,
He, in his arrogance, thought.
yeah, he thought he could cover over his back with it, but then yeah, he's fucked himself. And
An old friend of mine said to me that none of the monarchy will ever see a day in court or anything like that unless they bring it on themselves. And I said, well, it seems like Prince Andrew's kind of up to that job. I reckon he could do it.
there was something interesting.
And in fact, he did do it. So
there was something interesting that came that I can't remember where I came across the information for it. There was
allegedly.
Well, apparently there's not really an alleged about it. They're saying that there was an ex-MI6 agent who came forwards like on his deathbed that openly, well, maybe he was dying, it was on his deathbed, something along them lines. Regardless, he said this, like that he was the person who killed Diana because he was ordered to carry out a hit.
Right.
He basically, his job was he was a hitman for MI6. That was what his role was. He carried out hits and stuff. And
which exists.
And he said that even though he was against, he didn't want to do it, but unfortunately it was his position. It was what he had to do, kind of thing. If he didn't do it, he'd have probably been killed himself.
Well,
Allegedly.
I don't want to put him in any danger, but I like to think she's still alive.
Well, no,
she's leading the resistance.
But what he's saying, basically, he basically carried out and arranged the hit. But the reason why Diana was killed, is
allegedly.
Well, allegedly, but is because what she was actually doing, where she was doing a lot of humanitarian work, and say she was going around children's hospitals and loads of other things, and going all these places and helping people. That part on the side of what she was actually doing was getting a lot of recorded testimony about basically the stuff that Epstein's involved with at the moment, because they're saying stuff back to like Jimmy Savile and things like that. Like Jimmy Savile was never part of Comic Relief and things like that. Anything that was like, what's that thing with Pudsey the Bear? Is that Comic Relief?
I'm not sure.
Well, anyway,
I think so.
Yeah, he was like he was BBC. He was one of the biggest people in BBC history and shit. But he was never on anything like that. And stuff like it involved everybody else in the world, like was involved in it, but never him, kind of thing. But basically, they're saying that what Diana was doing, because Diana went to a lot of places as well, where Jimmy Savile is known for being going to as well and stuff.
Yeah,
that what she was doing was getting video and recorded testimony from victims of this stuff that have been involved with this shit. Well, not victims as in they've been blackmailed, like the children, the actual victims of this situation. Like, she was basically gathering all this information up, and when it came to a light that that's what she was doing, that is the reason why she was killed. Which could be believable, because, like, for what reason did she decide she was suddenly departing away from the royal family?
Yeah,
it could be the reason why Harry has decided that he wants to distance himself away. He can't say anything, but he's been like, can't be involved in this kind of thing.
Well,
this is all allegedly and shit, obviously.
That does give me a bit of hope. When Harry and Meghan did go, I did think, oh, maybe there's something more to this than just the given reasons. Maybe they are, because his mum was killed and he's never really seemed to fit into the system.
Yeah.
Over there, and I would have had enough of whatever the fuck the royal family get up to in their castles. She's moved again, hasn't she? She's downgraded to somewhere. Sandringham a cottage in Scotland, I think she's gone to. I heard, allegedly, that, and I think it's a possible thing, that it's really monarchies that are still running the world. Because, like, you had Rome, and then Rome fell, and monarchies took over, and monarchies haven't fallen. I mean, some have, in some countries, Russia and France.
I could kind of throw a spanner in those works, though,
Yeah.
because it wasn't truly the monarchies who ruled for a good couple of 100 years.
Yeah. Who was it? Money.
It was the Pope.
The Pope. Ah.
This is the thing. You think where the controlling seats of power usually tend to roll.
Hydra, innit?
Yeah, it's
The
the thing.
Pope. The Black Pope.
Everything just kind of rolls its way. Like back in those days, everything peaked back at religion and stuff. Is when you see things like you've got it when you look at certain things that have happened in history. So, to a degree, you have to think that you read what's in the history books, but then read what's in the history books and go, but what would have been the real reason for it? Because to say that Henry VIII, renowned, like he created the Church of England and stuff, it's allegedly that was just for the sake of
Divorce.
Yeah. The author also was saying that that Henry VIII was a bit like off in the head because he fell off a horse and stuff. Maybe he fell off a horse and then he became a bit mentally. I'm going to use the word retarded here because I can't think of a better one. And he's then gone off and done whatever, and he's been impossible to control. He's been fearless about the situation, did all this other shit, and then created this like minor under divide.
Well, it's the adventures of the family, isn't it, or of the families? Because, like you say, it's not like there's not just the monarchy that have got control of a large amount of territory and people. That's probably what it comes down to. It's who's got control of the territories and people. So the monarchy have got the UK. They've got the UK military. They've got Canada, all the Commonwealth countries, a lot of allies, a lot of conquered nations. Not conquered, they're just continually conquering. That's the new war, isn't it? It's not go there and do something and be finished. We've been there for 20 years now. Are we out of Iraq? I don't think we're out of Iraq. There's still private security forces. There's still British military.
Oh yeah, we're not out.
Afghanistan.
We're never going to be out entirely. Iraq was taken. I would put hands on the fact that Iraq is the reason you've got a strong base foothold there somewhere is because of Iran. There's a lot of things I feel come back to with Iran a lot of the time, and I think that what Iran has, the part and parcel for the creation of Iran was some people fell back and tried to make their own holding point against some of the shit going on around them. Do you think where the US was an inbred clusterfuck child mixture of everything and anything, it was new fresh ground?
Yeah.
I've recently seen Hamilton numerous bloody times because because kids and partner and that.
Right.
I saw it again today. And I always sit there when I think, because I've seen it so many times now. I've seen it the first time, and I've had the R factor about how cool it is. Give them credit; it held my attention as a musical. It's really good.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's worth a watch, man.
Yeah.
Genuinely worth the 2.5 hours. But it makes me like you're hearing the story and stuff like about Alexander Hamilton, and then because he was one of the founding fathers, and there's all the involvement of the other founding fathers of the US and that. It makes me think back on, say, like the creation of what you had going on, because the thing is, you already had these other powers, and they all wanted to buy in for control, and he already had people, I imagine, in controlling major states, and at some point they've had to make an agreement to then bind together.
Yeah. And this is just like a continuing Game of Thrones that's been going on for thousands.
Yeah.
Like tens of thousands since what? Egypt? Since Göbekli Tepe?
And I imagine a lot of things to do with, say, breaking independence from England. I reckon the vast majority of it was all for show, because they had to make it realistic that, these people moved to another country, rebelled against the monarch has to then respond. He can't just go, there's nothing I can do, fuck off.
But it's like it's a proxy for that, isn't it? Like, because it never mattered. Doesn't matter, really.
False flag.
Yeah, it is. It really is a false flag referendum. Like, they had a referendum on abolishing the House of Lords not too long ago, and that failed, and I'm so pissed off. But it's like a false version of that. Like, oh look, you're declaring your independence from who? From some people that don't really have anything to do with what you're going on about. It doesn't matter either way. Like, you could do Brexit in a good way. I reckon there'd be a way where you could really become independent. But why would you keep voting for Tories when you've got two chances to get rid of them after you've voted Brexit? You're like, no, I want the Tories to handle this.
Because media campaigns leading
Oh,
up to
yeah,
voting. You
yeah,
saw what
yeah.
they did to Jeremy Corbyn.
Terrified everyone off him.
They made a man who spent his entire life fighting against injustice and racism look like a racist, when the actual racist, who have been publicly reported numerous times for being very outspoken racist, they're the ones coming off as being the fucking...
And a classist even more than a racist, you know what I mean? Like, he's an Etonian boy, you know, he was bottom bunk out of bed. But you don't need to rig votes anymore. You don't need to interfere with the ballot box. You can just tell everyone what to think really forcefully. And with social media being about, you can really target it as well.
Oh, yeah, speaking from the point of somebody who's who manages social media accounts, like numerous ones for a company, I sit in front of my suite when I'm logging posts to push products, and my initial thought process is age range, what age above am I marketing for, what area of the country. Am I pushing this international? Am I just doing this for brand awareness, or am I trying to push something to locally?
Yeah.
I like Josh into a lot of this stuff, because when you go into like promotion, I don't know if you ever promoted anything, right?
Paid for it.
When you get into the promotional side of using the the ad management side for Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that, you have the ability to be able to put in keywords for basically marketing people looking for particular things. You know, maybe you're selling shoehorns.
Oh, and it's keyword that'll pop into their algorithm, or if their algorithm has it, it'll show them your...
Well, see, I'm under the impression that, well, you know, this is how then we're having this conversation now, and my phones are both listening. And then, you know, in a couple of days' time, I'm going to start getting, you know, maybe I'll start getting advertisements for paedophile rings. Who fucking knows? That seems to be what we're talking about right now. So much stupid, but yeah, imagine something like that. I think that's how I'm assuming it works.
Yeah, totally.
Obviously, it goes into what you're searching for and stuff on your thing, but...
Yeah, and because the data you put in with your thumbs, you know, is probably more accessible to more people than the data that you put in with your voice recording. That's for government eyes.
What I'm literally paying these companies to do is when I want to go, right, I've made this ad, I want the people who are relevant to my market to see this ad. Instagram, I only want you to show these plant-led feeding pots to people who actually grow veg.
Well, all the Cambridge Analytica stuff with the Brexit vote, where they're like, some guy was asking him, he asked the guy from Cambridge Analytica, he was like, what about the Brexit campaign that you worked on? And he went, no, we don't talk about that. And the guy's like, ha 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 ha. What about then? He was like, no, the next question. But they did work on it, and they targeted people who they thought were movables. I can't remember the name they used, but it was something like movables. People who they thought, that person. We can't do anything about fucking Elwyn over here. He's a lost cause. He's a loony lefty. You're not going to do anything. But this guy over here, if we push him a little bit that way, he'll probably come around to voting for Brexit for pride in his country.
Well, think about how many people, even knowing that, think how many people... It's a good example that contractors I came into contact with during the whole election lead-up thing. During that build-up, there was a number of contractors where it come up in conversation because it was a relevant topic everyone was fucking joshing about at the time. And these contractors, bunch of sparkies, are all jumping on board. Fact, fuck Jeremy Corbyn. You know, he's just a fucking clown. He can't do this, he can't do that. And he was literally regurgitating headlines from shit that was on the newsfeed, and I don't even think these people are reading the actual, like, either watching the video clips from inside the House of Parliament at the time, or actually reading the article in itself. They're just seeing the headlines and going, yeah, he's a fucking clown.
Did you notice that it was mostly people that would have used to be townies?
Yeah. Yeah, all the time.
When we were, day after the election, 2019, we were at a market in Lancaster, and all the hippies were just as sad as you ever seen a hippie. Like, all the people who had stalls at the market, and all the hippies wandering around Lancaster, and even just the slightly lefty people wandering around Lancaster, just saw like that, looking despondent, like making eye contact with people every now and then, and they've just been like, and looking straight back away because we could both just see the despair. Like, what? I thought we were just about to maybe even get a Jeremy Corbyn. I didn't think we were about to get an 80-seat Tory majority. Everyone's just like despondent. But then the townies walking about were all looking pretty happy. the day after the election. I was like, oh, you bastards, they got you.
You know why? And this is where I think that
Some of them, anyway.
to a strong possibility. I think that the Conservative Party have got one of these inner connections with, like, one of these fucking high tower things. Because I don't think all the parties have people at the heads of them who are compromised, if you will, in some way. Because Corbyn wasn't a compromised person.
No, I don't believe that.
He was too full frontal to.
Yeah, and the media were too afraid of him. I mean, you could maybe argue that that's part of a disinformation campaign for the left, to give the left someone to get behind so they don't just riot. You could argue that, and he did have the only shady connection I've ever heard of is that he was connected to the Fabian Society, but I don't know if they're all bad guys or if there's a mix. There's probably a mix, you know.
Yeah.
Never get, the Fabian Society are bad. It's like, well, some of them definitely are if they're a big boys club like they sound, but doesn't mean everyone's compromised in there, you know.
I genuinely think that Boris Johnson's one of these people, because some of the decisions that are being made at the moment seem so stupidly ludicrous that somebody, and this is the interesting thing, that people used to be behind Boris Johnson. I, for one, used to be one of these people. You used to laugh. They'd be like, yeah, Boris Johnson for Prime Minister. I remember when he got declared Mayor of London and he fell over the podium on the way up. He was lovable back then, and I could get behind him because the shit he was pushing, he seemed like he was genuine, he was good, and he was successful for what he did. But obviously, since he's got into the build-up to when he was getting into Parliament, or he became an absolute travesty of a laughingstock of things. And then, since being in the Prime Ministerial seat, he's just flopped left, right, and centre. And I think that a lot of the decisions he's making, I don't think are entirely his own with things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's definitely got, like, management working behind the scenes, you know. Dominic Cummings is part of that.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he could be Boris's Jafar.
I reckon the reason why we've had this weird bounce with lockdown and want to be push on herd immunity and things has genuinely been just because people within his circle of friends. I imagine he has friends from school or people he's met over the years who are people that own businesses, corporation heads, CEOs, the works and stuff. And he's, I reckon, to a degree, when you're going to have some, like, those people, the moment they found out he was going to be Prime Minister, will have all got really cozy with him. He'll have a lot of best friends right now, but these best friends are going to be on the other end of the phone, and they're going to be phoning up like, Boris, you can't go into lockdown. My company's going to fall out, and he's getting guilt tripped by, and it's the thing, because I'm not saying he is corrupt. I'm just saying I can't imagine it is difficult when you are best mates with people who own things like, because I imagine, look at Jason Rees-Mogg. He strikes me as the type of person who has a lot of friends within the financial, or within the city of London specifically.
Just a note for the listeners, though, don't look directly at Jacob Rees-Mogg for too long, because it can have really bad effects on your mental health. If you look at him for too long, it can make you feel nauseous.
But I imagine, like, there are going to be those people that, you know, maybe they are getting lobbied. Politicians are lobbied a lot. You know, and we're not talking briefcase slide across the table. We're talking phone call and somebody going, Boris,
I own you a little bit, Boris.
And you need to not do this, otherwise I'm going to come down on you. Because I imagine he's more concerned about his next term in Parliament and getting Brexit sorted for his business friends.
I think it's more, you're going to do this, than it is, don't do that. I think he's told what to do. And I think perhaps there's a little bit of the George Bush thing where he's a bit of a comedy act and a bit silly and seems a bit stupid and does stupid things and then U-turns on them. But maybe it's because he first does the thing that wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah.
And then does the thing that would. And then everyone's like, oh, Boris, how could you? Because it's coronavirus time, so it's inverted.
George Bush, I always find is a really interesting topic, and it's one thing that stood out to me that during George Bush's time as Prime Minister, as the US President, he didn't ever look like he wanted to be there and didn't seem capable enough to have got to where he was. But after he finished...
He bounced back, actually, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. It might not have been Jimmy Kimmel, but he did an interview on a talk show, and he was a fucking nice guy. I liked that guy. After he was president, the real him seems to come out because he's an artist, he's a bit of a bumbling moron, he seemed lovable, and you can kind of tell he was fucking put there for 9/11 to happen. They were just like, the original George Bush I imagine he had some. I'm alleging he had something to do with his background, because the guy who used to be head of CIA, who then later denied being a head of the CIA, and his son getting into power, then suddenly the war he failed to carry through happens again.
Yeah.
Fucking speaks for itself. And when your son, who didn't seem a very capable person, who's really shit as a public speaker, who never seemed comfortable ever, who seemed a bumbling idiot most of the time, as soon as he's suddenly past that and he's allowed to his own devices again, he seems like a genuine, spectacular human being. Speaks a lot for itself.
Well, yeah. Was that just an act? Was it part pressure? Just the pressure of the office? I'm sure it is.
Oh no, I imagine Daddy turned
complicated.
around to him and went, "Georgie boy, you're going to be president one day." No, wow,
no.
really?
You could be president one day, Georgie boy, as long as you do some things that are awful to other people. Then you can be president.
Because I think it's known that. It's known there was a thing. There was a thing. There was
Once upon a time.
There was a documentary on Netflix about. Was it documentary on Netflix? Oh shit! You know, I'm having these brain farts things because I'm referencing back to things I saw a fair while ago. There was something called The Family. I think it was The Family. Not like the Westboro Baptist Church, not that degree. They are like they're like a finishing school for like prestigious like college kind of thing in the US, where basically they it's like, I imagine it like an extra step fraternity where they are trained to be like if you go there, they train you to be a world leader. That's the kind of place you go to, so when you know you're coming out of there, you'll have the connections and you'll have the knowledge and you'll have the abilities to, because say Donald Trump, he's obviously never been in the position to learn how to run a country, and you have to think sometimes.
Do you think he was in the club?
I think that Donald Trump was the party boy bastard child that wanted to do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Yeah. Interesting dynamic if that were the case.
I reckon he's the problem one. I reckon he was mates with Epstein and stuff, but he was always too much of that. I don't give a fuck.
They all are though.
He never planned on becoming president. I reckon part and parcel of the reason he decided to do it was one or two things. Either the time he was I know that he was trying to win he was trying to do some deal over something to do with some TV thing, like not like it's like he was buying he was buying a company or something. I think he was trying to use like him running as president as leverage to help the deal across.
Allegedly.
Then it just so happens he became president. Or that the reason he's ended up doing it because he's just been like, well, fuck all of yous, I'm just gonna fucking go and do this, and it just kind of worked out, and it worked out for him, because the thing is, he's a millionaire, whatever.
Yeah.
He's rich. He didn't fucking need it. He said he paid for his campaign. He doesn't take a wage while he's doing it and stuff. He's showboating a lot, but it's because he's got the fucking money to. And for a fact he's setting himself up financially for afterwards.
Oh yeah, he'll do books and movies and whatnot. I was the president. Who's not going to watch that or buy that?
Any prime minister that was trying to push fracking through, i.e. all of the members of parliament trying to still push fracking through.
Apart from Jeremy Corbyn, who came down to Preston New Road and spoke to everyone.
Yeah, anybody who is trying to push it through is because they've got money they want to push on it. There's no reason to push fossil fuels in a day and age where we are trying to make everything green, unless you're trying to push money in it because you invested in something that you've gone, shit, I've lost money here. Because think how fucking much money these companies have lost.
And that is like a modern thing with capitalism. I'd argue that maybe it's always been true of capitalism, not like currency or trade or barter, but capitalism specifically. That is slow in progress because it's trying to keep a hold on things that are no longer necessary because it still makes a lot of money from them.
Yeah.
So it's found the things that make a lot of money, and then it's carried on producing them regardless of demand.
Yeah.
And it's actually artificially generated demand through advertising and overstocking at supermarkets and short dates on stuff and planned obsolescence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So people say capitalism, has got us so far, but I'd say at least right now it seems to be holding us back quite a lot because people are still keen on making some money before the ship sinks.
Yeah, profit keeps getting put over. Profit is being put ahead of sense, if you will.
Yeah, ahead of people.
Yeah, this is all thing like there was one of the brands we sell that made a good point in this post. He put up one about one of the about the products, and he's saying that too many companies are rushing from R&D to shelf too quickly to force a product out, and they're never testing it and getting it right first time. They're getting something out just so it'll fuck up a bit, might work, and
But
then
they've got a product for this cycle.
yeah. That seems to be entirely that literally they'll just go, yeah, well, fuck it, we'll just re-release it, and when it fucks up we'll go, whoa, 2.0.
Yeah,
Which it's obvious, and this is the thing, because there's already been fears about this like COVID vaccine doing the exact same thing, that they're just going to go, right, fuck it, we'll see what happens, and then we'll go, oh bad, and then we'll make it better. That near enough happened. Because they had to announce it recently that the recent vaccine developed is making people ill.
At least one of them,
But they were looking to try and fucking push that out.
And they're really rushing through it, and it's a novel thing apparently.
But that's
never like any other coronavirus, like any other of the cold, because the cold viruses are in coronavirus.
Yeah.
Bracket, aren't they? We've never had a vaccine for them. That's always been just a known thing. Like, oh, you can't have a vaccine for the cold because it's mental and it changes all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a cold type virus, is my understanding.
Yeah, that's how it gets transferred, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, a vaccine for that is going to be difficult, clearly, because we've not done it. And you have to be really careful with vaccines because you're injecting stuff into people.
But things
right
like
into their bloodstream, and that can really, if there's too much of something in there, that can really mess them up.
But things like this, things like that, even it's just like everything. Every company just tries to rush forwards and push products constantly, and it's literally like it's forcing out faster than not faster than they just need to they want to get some return back for their initial investment, regardless of how well it goes down.
And it just eats people. Capitalism just eats people for money.
Yeah, whereas just that that little extra year in R&D with a little profit loss could have made something safer and wouldn't have been lost of life. Yeah,
a good product. Capitalism's like, it means people produce the best products. No, it means people produce some really expensive products that are made by an artist or a bit shit but have a name attached to them.
Think how Apple got bollocked not like a couple of years ago when it came out, and he had to own up to the fact that they were sending updates out when new phone models were coming out that would make their old models run slow, so it'd force you off an old phone to have to buy a new one.
Through stress, through giving you some stress in your life by making your phone work less.
My good. PlayStation 1, I shit you not on this, the day the PS2 got announced, it stopped working properly. Just saying.
Danger.
I don't know, it just seemed legit. I'm not the only one. I've spoken to a few people and gone.
People encountered it?
Yeah, people went, I won't say it was at the exact same time, I might be over-exaggerating, but it's saying around about the time that came out, their PS1 stopped working properly as well. It's not unbeknown for companies to specifically get it so that your expensive thing doesn't last so long that you have to buy off them again.
And I suppose you could install that to a date because you didn't have Wi-Fi connection to it then, so you'd just be like, right, when do we start our next product launch? Let's choose a date.
Yeah.
Put that in there. Bosh.
Yeah, and these devices have internal clocks.
Because a PS1 should be of the MySpace era, really, and it should still be. Well, no, MySpace is no longer kicking, is it?
No, it's there still.
Is it?
Shit,
I thought they went for a bit.
I went on it.
They lost all the music, didn't they?
No, there was still some stuff on. Oh yeah, they did lose a lot of data files.
I lost my tunes, my MySpace tunes.
But yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the dentist.
I think it was when they were deciding to do like a big clear out of certain things that were like dead files and that. But I went on not that long ago because I sat there and went, I should probably go on and delete all my old stuff so I don't have a digital footprint anymore. Which I did think.
Escaping the Matrix.
Oh yeah, I thought I better. I'm covering my old tracks. My MSN records don't exist anymore. If anything, the old accounts no longer exist. They were all removed. I specifically emailed mail requesting for all the data to anything to do with them to no longer exist. And I've covered all my tracks
Did Hotmail say we'll do it? Because mine's deleted now.
I can't remember. I think it was just an extra step thing that I emailed them after it, and I do remember part and parcel to it. Do say, you need to delete your email and stuff, but I can't remember what came back of it. You were talking a long fucking time ago, like at least 10 years. Because it was literally when I was 20 when I was 2010. Yeah.
What a different year that was. Nothing really happened in 2010, did it? It was a pretty. We were still at war. I don't think much happened. It's not one of them big years. Like 2008
Where are
was
we still at
financial
war?
crisis.
Oh yeah, we were still in
Yeah,
Iraq.
we're still in Iraq now.
2010.
Yeah.
I can't.
Currently still doing it. Still World War Three. It's been World War Three for 20 years now, isn't it?
I don't know. There was a period of time around there. There was a lot. There was a period of time around there where there was a lot of Mitsubishi involved, and we weren't driving.
Do you remember that time when they showed it on the telly for like 6 months? Do you remember at the start of the Iraq War? And they were just like, we're going to broadcast it, all of it on telly.
Well, yeah, because you want to get your population behind you.
Well, yeah, but it was a bit much, and then they stopped it, and everyone was like, but it had a fun consequence. Everyone going, oh, so is the war over? All right, cool.
Well, as far as everyone's concerned, they do. They get sick of it being in the media. People ignore it, and then you just start complaining when it's in their faces.
Yeah, and they no longer say, like, the war's still on in Iraq. They just mention an incident in passing or
Well, think Syria.
something ancillary. Well, yeah.
Little to fuck all ever comes out about Syria now. It's still bloody going on.
Yeah, stuff's don't come round. Stuff, we're doing stuff. Don't come looking to see what's going on. It's not pretty.
I still remember when that shit started kicking off, and then there was a big petition went up, and it's the first time literally the first time in my lifetime I've seen a petition actually make what you'd think I reckon was an actual difference. Because I remember the petition going up where people signed this petition saying we don't, as a country, want to send our military to. And the thing is, because of the large number of people that have said it, I think it had that carry because it was one of these situations where if you think the government has to then go, we are representatives of our people, and if such a large number of our people are saying no, they are within their rights to make that decision because they are en masse going, that's because it's our military at the end of the day. Everyone needs to be fair, everyone needs to remember that and stop forgetting the fact that the government work for us.
Yeah, it's our government.
We voted them in. They tell us what to do, but that's because you voted somebody in to make decisions and help guide us and
competent.
shit. Yeah.
To be more competent than us, in fact, if possible. Like, because there's things me and you would probably get wrong. There's things everyone would get wrong.
The job interview.
They get wrong,
job interview is their campaigning up until election.
Yeah, well, with us, the job interview with the bosses is elsewhere and many decades long, probably by that point.
Everybody
but I remember
forgets
with Syria, Labour made the case against it, didn't they? When it actually came down to the vote, was it Theresa May still then? It was, wasn't it? Theresa May. When we went into Syria, just
no, it was
recently.
David Cameron.
Was it Cameron?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Conservatives were making the case for doing it, and Labour under Jeremy Corbyn were making the case very much not for doing it. And then at the end of Labour's bit, Hilary Benn stood up and declared how we must invade Syria. And he spoke for the right of the Labour Party, the establishment part of the Labour Party. And he said we were in Labour's camp, for Labour, we will go to war. And up to that, it'd just been the point of we should not. There's no need to go to war. Everyone for varying reasons, but then Jeremy Corbyn very firmly sort of most successful opposition leader in British history. Just worth pointing that out. He said no, we shouldn't do war in Syria, and then Hilary Benn stood up and ruined it, and the party sort of bowed to the establishment because Hilary Benn was kind of displaying at that point, really, wasn't he? He was like, we will go to war, and this is what is being told, and the people in that party who were subject to influence from that quarter, they were like, okay, we have to vote with that.
I think the fact that they have whips. Given if anybody you're listening is not UK based, the whip is supposed to be the member in the party who just makes sure other people in the party follow what you're voting for, and you do get people who they say rebel against the party, make their own decision. But you're classed as rebelling for having your own opinion or carrying the opinion of your constituency. And he's saying there seems to be this forgetfulness all the time because I forget it. I think it was only prior to... Oh, Christ, how long was that? I can't remember how long ago it was. Somebody made a point to me to remind me on the fact that you're not voting for the party to get in power. What you are voting for is the leader of your local constituency, but because the entire show is going on about the seat of power, everyone forgets the fact that that's what they're actually voting for. You're voting for you're voting for a party leader for your local area. The problem is you don't actually discover or have any need for said person until you're a homeowner.
Or you're or you're interested or something, or
otherwise you don't know the person fucking exists. You just see whoever's the clown on TV.
And then Boris Johnson gets into power. I liked him as well, I didn't like him. I mean, I didn't like him, but
you think Boris Johnson
Prime Minister?
Boris Johnson is the only Prime Minister who used to do comedy, used to do the comedy fucking TV spots on TV. He was a presenter on Have I Got News for You numerous times.
He was.
It's a bit shit like.
Yeah. I mean, he was entertaining.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he was entertaining.
Think about that though. This person, he was a bit of a George Bush.
Yeah, definitely.
Think about that shit. If you look at that now, he was a lovable fucking person. Becomes Prime Minister, everyone fucking hates him. He doesn't look happy.
He's brilliant when he gives all those presses though. Whenever he's answering questions from journalists, or the question bit, he's always just like smiles like the whole doing this stupid smirk when he's going, I'm getting away with this. I can tell you anything, can't I?
What is it? I think this is why I reckon that he is under somebody's thumb, because I know it's like his dad I think hates him in some way.
Money.
His dad said to his dad and I still remember this, when he was saying about people not going to the pubs and shit, and a reporter grabbed hold of Boris Johnson's dad in passing and he was like, oh, you're doing this and that, and he's just gone, oh, I'm going to the fucking pub practically. Not verbatim, I can't remember what he specifically said, but he basically undermined his son's fucking orders. His son's the Prime Minister and his dad's going, I ain't fucking doing what he says.
He went to Spain as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just after they said don't go to Spain. He was or Turkey or somewhere allegedly. I don't fucking know. I don't want to go.
And I kind of feel as though he's in that position where he knows. I don't think he's immediately connected to whatever Boris is connected to. But
I think maybe Boris. It wasn't actually his turn yet. I don't think maybe it wasn't Boris's turn yet. And people are a bit miffed that he's jumped the queue, but they needed somebody to go up against Jeremy Corbyn because he had huge grassroots support. And
yeah, it was obvious Theresa May was basically told, you're going to have to eat shit on this.
Yeah,
you're going to get to be Prime Minister.
You're not popular enough. Well, yeah, you're going to have to eat shit on this over... Well, Cameron had to eat shit over Brexit and resign.
Well, no, because
she had to eat the shit of doing Brexit.
Yeah, so I reckon he was basically turning around answering the leadership decision and gone, right, whoever's taking power is going to have to eat shit, and we think you're going to be the best. Basically, it's you that's going to have it. You're only going to get to be Prime Minister if you're willing to take horse shit to the face right now.
So what is so that's the criteria they had for Theresa May, and that's part to do with her and part to do with the time that it happened in, what they needed at that time in the process. So what is the criteria for Boris?
Just before I step into that, there was one thing that really irritated me, and I slapped myself for it, because I found myself agreeing with Theresa May the other day.
Oh no!
Because she said that she stood up in the House of Parliament stating about the fact that, or House of Lords, whatever it is, saying about basically having a rage out about what Boris has done during this whole thing, basically saying, what the fuck are you doing? Your response has been atrocious.
Motherfucker!
Yeah, basically throwing out and being like, he's been appalling what has happened kind of thing. Where he does sometimes make me waver on the fact of,
A lot of these people, I think they're doing the right thing, and they think they're helping their country. And
I reckon you've got all these different people in the parties who are all part of their own little clan.
Yeah. Well, I think there's probably a lot of unity and probably a lot of common work between clans and between fraternities and groups and brotherhoods and whatnot. There's a lot of that in there, and I reckon that goes back a long way.
Well, yeah, they're all going to know each other. They're going to know of each other.
They're going to know. I reckon at that finishing school, you probably get some of the secrets of, real history.
Yeah.
They're probably like, we're not going to tell you everything because you're only just leaving university. You're going to spend your whole life finding out the secrets of the universe. The secrets of the universe. So I think at that finishing school or something like that, they'll be given potential one-day president secrets. This is what you get to know the day that you potentially become a presidential candidate by finishing at this school.
Well, there is, and like going back to when I was going on about Hamilton earlier, there's something that sparked my head off. And it's part of it's in the second act. There's only 2 acts. It's in the second act, and it's when Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson are basically, I think it's basically, right, I can't remember if Thomas Jefferson was led Virginia or something like that. I think it was basically when he was he was getting, what's that? Is it the US Constitution? I think he was trying to get Jefferson in on the US Constitution. Because this musical makes a point of saying, they went into a room together for dinner. This is where the decisions were made. The only people I had in there was Hamilton, Jefferson, and one other person. That's who had the dinner. And so they've gone into this room.
Who's the one other person?
Hmm?
Who's the one other person?
I can't fucking.
Oh right, but they did say.
I don't think it was anybody it might have been like a helper or something like that.
Oh right.
But it could have been, but regardless, anyway, I know it was just Hamilton and Jefferson had gone into this room together.
Yeah.
Because the play makes the point of the fact that there's this one guy who he wanted to be involved, but he couldn't be. He was told to fuck off because decisions are about to be made over dinner. Because they make this whole song up being like, I want to be in the room where it happens and shit. Because it makes a point of saying that they went into this room, they've had dinner. And whatever's happened, they've come out the other side, and then that's what the USA started. So Alexander Hamilton's supposed to be somebody he was born in the Caribbean. He was he was son of a whore kind of thing, and rose from nothing to the top. There is a person within this story of Hamilton who is a trust fund child, orphaned as well, who keeps trying to go in the same direction as Hamilton, but Hamilton's the one who takes, goes ahead.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's in this room, the US Constitution passes and everything happens. And I have a partial inkling under me that I reckon in that room, because Jefferson he's a renowned part of the Freemasons, that there was a conversation had at that point where, because whatever George Washington was involved with, he was stepping down from presidency, and Thomas Jefferson's looking to challenge George Washington as going to president. That is when Alexander Hamilton was offered the opportunity, and I reckon he pushed it, because Hamilton, it was one of these people where they were like, why is a founding father, why didn't he get to be president? And the reason is because a scandal came out of him cheating on his wife or something. His life fell apart. The Americans at the time wouldn't trust somebody who was an nefarious person, shit like that. That seemed like one of those blackmail situations, because the way that the press used to work back then, they used to write smear campaigns about each other in newspapers under aliases and pseudonyms.
Same as now.
Yeah.
Just they outsource it maybe a little bit.
And it makes me just think back to the fact, you look at how far back this all started and stuff, and things like Zeitgeist and shit, and you've got things like Da Vinci Code and all these other things on about cover-ups and conspiracies and shit like this.
I just got a good book that was some people who wrote an earlier book that partly inspired the Da Vinci Code, and it's about the Priory of Sion, but the actual organisation, not the Dan Brown sort of loosely based it on them, and there's some information about the Priory of Sion out there, but they're not sure if it was invented by the Priory of Sion in 1956, because there's no prior evidence of them before that. But then you look into the people who were like the leaders of it, and they all had interest in esoteric stuff, and they were in other orders that had something of Sion, like the Order of Sion, or like other names that had that in that were related. So it kind of checks out through history, but somebody could have written it to check out through history, if they knew enough about the church. Their current leader is unnamed. I don't know if that's traditional, if they only publish the name of the leader once they've left.
Yeah.
And they're a real thing. I've not read much of the book yet. I've only really read the start.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting. And it could go back a long way. I think monarchies, it's been like a long episode of Game of Thrones, and we're in episode 2020.
Well, look at the ludicrous history we have with the British monarchies, because you think the Windsors...
Don't say it. You get put on a list if you say the Windsors are German.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to reference out into the fact they had no prior connection really immediately to, you know, you when you're going back to the Tudors and stuff. There's a reason why you got the Tudors, Victorians, stuff like this, that you've got these long-running monarchy names and stuff where they were overstepped at a time because it was the male like name that got taken into power in some form, and you know, lineages died off completely and they were replaced because all you had to do was wait for the old generation to die off and you go, ha, we do whatever the fuck we want now.
Well, Greg Hallett says that they've been illegitimate since, I think it's 1725. Apparently they went really bankrupt in some European wars, like especially the British monarchy, but all the European kings fighting each other and stuff, they were all like really low on cash. No, it was just the British actually, just the British, sorry. Really low on cash after a bunch of wars, and the Rothschilds stepped in and said, we'll finance you in exchange for breeding rights to the throne of England. And that they took over breeding rights.
Yeah.
They put their bloodline on the throne of England.
Possible.
But that's just a conspiracy by a guy who claims to be the new king, you know. Have you come across him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you coincidentally sent me
Oh, I
something
did
about
probably.
it.
Look,
Yeah.
new fucking king. I don't know, man. I don't know if he's legit or not. But.
Oh yeah, there's always like the thing is there could be information that kind of falls into play and stuff because it's not impossible for something. Cause it could just be one person coming out of a letter going, actually this.
He's been doing it for a while, you know. He has, and the Queen keeps moving, and there's a seal still off the gates at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still off. It's been off since November, apparently because a delivery van backed into it. But it's on the front of the palace where deliveries don't come in. Deliveries come in the tradesman's entrance.
Yeah.
As is tradition, you know. So, or maybe that it was a van reversing or something. I don't know. But it's not on the.
Well, no, I've been. Like, have you ever been to Buckingham
No.
Palace? I can't understand how a van would have hit those gates. Guards would have been like, "What are you fucking doing,
shit,
mate?"
Yeah,
like those guards. If a vehicle was fucking
no one
doing
parks
that,
outside there, do they?
No,
So if it was someone parks and trying to leave, no one's going to park outside.
Yeah, if a van was doing that, there'd be somebody running up with a rifle going, "Fucking stop," because they'd think they were they'd think they were ramming charging the fucking gates.
Especially if Liz is inside, not in human form. You know?
Fucking hell.
Oh, back to the Diana thing. I heard this. It was David Icke saying it, I think. He was saying, Diana.
Oh, no,
come on, man.
He
This is a good
not
story.
a credible fucking source.
He's not. But here, I'll tell you who he said he got it from. So Diana had a friend, and this is documented, that was a spiritualist, crystal ball kind of lady, right? And David Icke says he spoke to her. She's a real person. David Icke says he spoke to her, and that Diana told her that she'd been invited to just one ritual before she got married to Prince Nabed. She was invited to a ritual, and she was told by the Queen that you will only be used for breeding, you will never be an actual member of the aristocracy, and you will never be invited to another ritual. And then displayed her secondary energy body, which is what David Icke calls a reptilian, that the royals call the family illness.
Right.
Which is the secondary energy body that's reptilian and alien in nature.
Well, that happened.
That happened. Apparently, Diana told her friend. She didn't know reptilian, of course, but she said that was a weird fucking thing.
I kind of feel like the thing I said before sounds more credible than that, to be
Mate,
honest.
reality, you know, is often stranger than fiction, isn't it? Because fiction has to stick to the rules, and reality does not. Because we don't know the rules. Everyone likes to be like, oh, that would break the laws of physics, or that's impossible. But we don't. If somebody says that'd break the laws of physics, that means they think that they completely understand physics, and we don't understand physics completely.
Oh, that
By
if
a
you'd
million-
like to step onto another topic, man,
Uh-huh.
we can put all this shit aside. We'll move on to UFOs.
It's time for aliens. All right.
There was something that, like, given the fact that there was there's information that's come out and stuff, and it's come out from the military instead of, you know, the intelligence agencies.
Yes, that is a distinction.
The Navy, more specifically, rather than the Air Force, if you will, actually.
Oh wow, yeah, I suppose, yeah, that's another.
The Navy, with the released footage and having to openly state that these tic-tac crafts, as the pilots have referred to them as, they've had to openly state on the fact we don't know what these are. They are not of human nature. They are not of earth-bound nature, and coming forward about the fact that you know, they have a craft that they do have one of these crafts in.
Recovered materials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. There's all the things with Bob Lazar as well when he's saying about the fact that, you know, one of the things they have in storage, it was like more of an archaeological find and such. And he's saying like spikes in numbers of signs and things and stuff. And when he referred back to the fact that he's saying that, you know, things can break the laws of physics and stuff, when he referred back to the fact that what they found from how these devices work is from an element that we don't know ourselves, but they reckon is from black matter, which is a science we're only just making a beginning on discovering and such.
Well, we can make it, but only for a tiny nanosecond part of a thing, and then it flips back out of existence.
But the thing is, we can make it, which means that
it's a thing.
Yeah, we like the way that the way technology science evolves is so rapid now that I can't remember who it was. It might have been Mike Tyson that said it. I was listening to a thing with Mike Tyson on the other day.
Great podcast, Mike Tyson.
And
great to listen to on podcasts too.
Yeah, I never as far as him being the person he is, I would not have struck him to be like for him. I think it's because because of his lisp and because he's been a very angry, aggressive person. He's always been portrayed as an aggressive person. He's always just seemed like he was a bit of a cunt.
Yeah.
I was going to put it out there, but when you actually have you get to hear him personally. It was Joe Rogan I heard it on. It's where I heard and stuff. And when you get to know him as a person, you see past just what you saw on the media, and you kind of go, oh shit, guy's really fucking logical and stuff. He's been hitting the head a lot. And shit, and you know, I imagine he's gonna have some problems occasionally, but he's really well fucking knowledge and stuff, and some of the stuff he goes on about. But he
knows about a lot of stuff. I think he's fed a lot of disinformation. I think what happened with Alex Jones, I think he does follow stuff really well, but I also think he's fed a lot of disinformation that leans into his own political bias, or he willingly pushes stuff that leans into his own political bias and his own team. Because as much as I'd like to believe that Trump is doing some good, it could just be a show. The same way Jeremy Corbyn could have been a show. I don't think he was, but to distract the left into thinking they've got someone to vote for. But yeah, like calling out fake news is a good thing because the right used to be into, oh no, you can trust the news. We have to go to war in Iraq. They've got weapons of mass destruction. I heard it on the news. Like the right used to be those guys. So it's good that it's waking some of them up to you shouldn't trust your government, you shouldn't trust your media.
Yeah.
Whether it'll actually amount to anything this time or if they're just buying time for the next one, I don't know. I think probably as a response to the internet and people being able to get more information, probably things have accelerated. I imagine you'd have to have a game plan that sort of its pace was just society set the pace or something, or technology.
Well, Mike Tyson made a point or something along the lines of science. If you look at we've discovered how rapidly science can advance in such a short period of time over a space of 100 years, and you've got to think to the situation that you've got science. If you took a nuclear reactor and you showed it to if you took it back in time to the 1500s, they'd be like, "What the fuck?" But even more than that, if you took it back to the Victorian times, you took a nuclear reactor back. You took a nuclear reactor back to 1936. You showed them a nuclear reactor, they'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" Yeah. And we've found something, uses an element we've not yet discovered yet, and then suddenly we've found this thing now. Like we can create black matter or dark matter in a very small amount. That means it is possible. Once that technology advances at whatever speed it advances at, once it advances enough, they'll make a larger amount, and then we'll discover what that black matter does. Which means, if we can find it, and this is something that there is more of in the universe than anything else, somebody else can find it.
Yeah, and back to the nuclear reactor thing, like, if you thought of something that we'd have 1,000 years from now and brought it back to now, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it? It'd be some crazy machine, like especially with exponential technology.
Yeah.
Like it would be an absolutely bonkers thing. So we only need a civilized. We'd probably be able to go to planets around different stars in a different way than just going in a line.
Well, the
chemicals, you know.
The thing this element's supposed to do with these crafts is that it bends gravity.
Yeah.
This element, when it's whatever happens to activate it, it bends gravity, so it dips in suddenly. That seems to be how it moves. That's how it shoots around and stuff. So rather than traveling what in a way we would via say thrust over a distance. What this does is it bends gravity to move the craft
into a pocket.
Yeah,
sort of.
so it moves it to the point in time and space where you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
And
like
it does that like incrementally, doesn't it? Kind of. That's
Yeah.
the process. It's like a wave or a pocket or something. That
it
you...
might even get to a stage where I imagine if you think about it, it might be that the dark matter doesn't move you across in a way. I think what it does is it takes time and space in so much the way that a black hole works, per se, like how you would travel for a wormhole, that it folds reality. Maybe not reality. Think this will be archaic in my explanation. I'm just trying to perform this
Well, we
theory as
don't
best
know
as
it yet,
possible.
do we?
Yeah. But basically, yeah, imagine basically you've got, in the same way that a wormhole's supposed to work, it's like two edges of a page. You've got two corners of a page, and the shortest distance between them is to move those corners together. So what you've done is you've bent gravity so that you exist in two spaces at once, and then you shift. So it's practically teleportation.
Yeah.
But all it's done is it's bent the
Using
dimension.
gravity.
Yeah,
So you've
through
travelled
gravity.
through gravity, in a sense. There.
I imagine it's bending the dimension.
Yeah.
If you will, if you look
Yeah.
past like the three, like
If
the
they're the
third
corners
dimension.
that you're bringing together, it's gravity the corners that you're bringing together,
Yeah.
or you're using gravity to pull the corners together.
How that works in space in itself with travel, that might mean that there is the possibility that you are able to travel between 2 points instantaneously, which we wouldn't understand because, say, we've only seen these craft perform minor movements between going here to there, and then suddenly they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know exponentially how it is, how they move, but then there's been other versions of these crafts like witnessed and stuff. But obviously, there's not much of an explanation yet because we know this thing exists.
Yeah.
Like the US government's come out now and gone. Well, not the government, the military's come out to the public and gone. This exists.
Yeah. Hello again. We're telling you again that it exists.
Yeah.
Just in a increasingly more official way.
And it's the funny thing is because it corroborates Bob Lazar basically that I feel like you can link that between the Navy coming out going we have this, and then Bob Lazar coming out saying I have worked on this. You can pin them together at least in some way and go right. So this is a thing then.
They kind of verify each other.
Yeah. Does make you wonder exactly what will happen in the event of say. But what point is it they're waiting for a discovery to be made before they unveil themselves?
I think what's going on is you've got a technology that, like you say, we only understand incrementally depending on where our material technology is and where our understanding of physics and science is. We can only interpret so much of it. So we had it in this archaeological time, probably just a special thing passed down, and then you get to analyse it more and more as science gets better. And I think we're waiting for a point where we understand it fully enough that we're able to match the performance of the other aliens, and then we're going to stage a false flag alien invasion probably. I've got that down for November false flag alien invasion and December is real aliens.
I don't think they'd do a false flag thing.
No?
No, unless the only
Not the aliens.
No, I mean like I
Humans.
don't think our government would hold
No?
the false flag thing. I think it'd be more of there'd be an open public address.
Just letting you all know.
It'll be a
Sorry
thing.
for lying for so long, but there's definitely aliens and you should hide. I think they'd want to go with the fear angle if it's real, man.
But the thing is, the way I see it is, if we were going to be invaded,
Oh no, I don't think we would be.
yeah, if we were going to be invaded, we would have been invaded before now. I think that in the concept of time and the existence of how long the universe has existed for, whatever we're going to develop within our lifetime technologically, even if it becomes space travel and we work out how these black matter engines work, it will be archaic in response to what it is we were actually these other people, like these extraterrestrials will be using. I don't think they're from a different dimension. I think they are from a different area of space. However, this is what black matter does.
Yeah, there is dimensional weirdness and stuff.
Our portrayal of how sci-fi works and how travel between across space works is all based on what we know now, and what we know now is in order to move, there has to be some development of thrust to push you in that direction.
Yeah. Although in science fiction, you don't have to stick to the rules. You know, people just have ideas about how you might do it and write it down.
You've got to think the inspiration for where everything travel-wise comes from a certain thing, because spaceships are based on ships, and ships require propulsion, therefore light speed thrusters, all this shit, engines.
I heard about the tic-tac-toe type vessels, that one of the reasons for that is the first US spacecraft, like anti-gravity spacecraft that they made in like the 1940s, 50s. They were submarines. So you could launch them out in the middle of the ocean for one, and two, it was just because it's anti-gravity, you just have whatever shape you want. And a submarine, they had a bunch. You know, they were just like, we'll just use it because it's quite, doesn't have to be aerodynamic.
Yeah.
Can carry whatever you like, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they did that in like the 40s, 50s.
Could be possible. So these discoveries date back, you know, a good fair long while, and not until like a lot of things will have been like before further understanding of technologies, if you will, developed. A lot of projects, a lot of things that will have been found over the last couple of 100 years, they'll have been studied, they'll have been looked at, but people have got to a certain limit and gone, there's nothing more we can discover out of this. Let's put it back in storage until we have the ability to be able to research more, because that's what this is what people seem to forget, that a lot of science is based on capability at the time, and the reason why a lot of science is overwritten is because we've developed we've advanced technologically so much over this period of time that new microscopes, new ways to scan, better software, higher powered computers, higher powered lasers, etc. The list goes on. When these other things, when somebody invents something new, one of the first things that tends to happen is, well, what's the application for this? What else can we use this for? This microscope we've discovered, you know, it can look at hair follicles really fucking neatly. You can look at other things, surely, and then, you know, you discover other things, and then suddenly the other advancements are discovered because they've looked at something, they thought, fuck it, let's look at this frog semen, and they're like, oh shit, frog semen has tiny little tentacles on it and stuff, and we didn't know that because we didn't have this microscope back, you know, when I'm just fucking bumbling now. Yeah, so the more technology advances,
the more we can understand something that we didn't understand previously.
We're probably going to discover at some point that if you take steel and you rub moose shit against it, you know, it turns into obsidian, like extra light or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's you know, it's like obsidian.
Yeah.
It's called obsidian because it's black.
Yeah.
But it's extra light.
Extra light.
I don't fucking know. But, you know, coming at you like say you're like, well, you'd something like that, and that'd be an accident.
Yeah.
That'd just be because some blacksmith was pissed, and you know, a moose shat near his hut, and he's like, oh, you know what? I wonder if I can stain this, and then suddenly he's like, oh Christ, new element.
Made this thing.
That's how everything's discovered.
No, I don't know. I think it might be old, like more what you'd class as magic, like in the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy sort of tradition to an extent, like sound and fire and rhythms and stuff.
Yeah.
I heard a fun theory the other day about the stones at Stonehenge being lifted into place by a bunch of people. Was it Stonehenge or was it somewhere else? Maybe it was China. They were playing loads of drums. Tibet. It was in fucking Tibet. They were playing a load of drums and doing a load of chanting.
Yeah.
And they did it in such a way and such a precise, stood out arrangement to lift a rock and make it go 300 meters. That's what they do up there, apparently, those monks. That's like one of the tests. You've got to be able to move a thing. And it's, sound. And I reckon you can probably cut stone really precisely with like fire and sound or something. Or
I've already seen a couple of techniques that they use in like areas in Asia where to split rock in a certain formation, all they do is they just make holes in the length of the rock and then put wedges in.
Yeah.
And then they just knock wedges in, and just because of the position and where they've created fault lines in the masonry, the rock just follows suit because that's just how rock breaks.
Yeah, it's like down the grain.
Yeah,
grain
and
stone sort of thing.
You see these things where like, oh, it's granite blocks in I think it's granite blocks in South America. you've got these rocks that are so perfectly smooth and in line that they already sit perfectly together, and you say, oh, these rocks are really hard, you need special tools to work on these. You don't.
No.
You need time and patience. And what else do these people fucking have?
Yeah, you do need that patience for every time that copper tool breaks. And
Well, if you think they're not using copper tools most of the time, they're using another rock. And different minerals react together differently.
Yeah, a bit of chemistry going on there, perhaps, as well.
You never know. This is the thing, and all these people had was that was them for the day. You know, there was another group in the village that was off like foraging and shit.
Yeah.
You were just smashing rocks
to build stuff.
Yeah,
build stuff.
And everyone seems to forget, like, they didn't work on a clock either. That's just all they had to do. They'd stop for a bit, they'd eat, and they'd go back to it. Because what the fuck else were you doing otherwise?
It's got to be done.
Yeah.
Family's getting bigger.
It's just how shit works, and people seem to forget. Like, people back then were still capable of really amazing feats. Considering the fact that they've also now discovered that Stonehenge wasn't built from rocks that were transported across the entire country.
Which, the big rocks? Or the little ones?
I can't remember.
The little ones definitely come from Wales, but the big ones come from quite nearby.
We found that it was like 25 miles away.
Yeah, that might be the big ones, I don't know. Yeah, the little ones come from a bluestone quarry in Wales. Ah, you little bastard kid. Hey! Fucking claws in my knee.
What do you reckon the extraterrestrials that were all like, look like?
I think there's a bunch, isn't there? Probably. There's like Greys, Nordics, reptilians, like swamp guy people, light beings, probably. I think it's like fucking Star Wars out there, really, man. Because the universe is so big, there's got to be at least parts of it that are like Star Wars, where there's loads of different civilizations.
It was like I was saying before about you think about the existence of the time in the universe.
Yeah.
We might not be, we could be the last civilization so far to, develop to this stage, or we don't know how many others are at this point of, so we don't know how long ago the first ones did. So to a certain degree, over an expanse of time, evolution starts from, however.
Yeah.
And
life finds a spore finds itself in an environment, and then starts to adapt to that environment. And the cell finds its way there and starts adapting to its environment.
And evolution doesn't end; it carries on. It's what development and it's what genetic development
Unless it's a really bad idea, and then it sort of course corrects, doesn't it?
Well, I'm an avid Richard Dawkins fan.
Yeah.
And Richard Dawkins, I've read The Selfish Gene, and part of when he tried to describe what the relevance of a gene is and how a gene is selfish in its manner.
Yeah.
You've got to think a gene has to be out for itself, because a gene is a constant replicator of a bunch of specific DNA that just wants to exist for a particular reason.
Yeah. To exist?
Well, yeah, there's literally, like, it's developed at some point.
Make sure it exists instead of a different one.
Well, think about how far back we came from. We developed from, there was a pool of cess that's, some things have decided that they...
first pool of cess, can you imagine?
Well, it's the thing, you've got these genetics, they've, this thing's existed, and it wants to own its environment, it wants to get bigger, it wants to get better, so it starts building off, and it has to develop different ways to do it.
But
and then
why?
At some point down the line, well, I think Darwinism, if you will, best way to put it, since when anything exists, it'll be in combat with everything else around it, because you get variety and variations. Yeah. Even when you have if you have a population of 1,000 of something, eventually, from breeding from all those 1,000, eventually there's going to be a genetic anomaly.
Yeah.
And that genetic anomaly, if it breeds, it then creates a version. It creates a mishmash. It starts to develop that genetic anomaly. Then creates its own off branch, and then the more that genetic anomaly breeds in with the rest of things, it expands. You get other genetic anomalies, but after a while, competition's just got to get to a point where, you've got a giant pool of tiny cells. Eventually, one cell is going to be like, I want to get bigger and I want to get out of there. I want to own shit. I want to eat all the cells. But then another one's,
And that's cancer.
Yeah, well, this happens. Yeah, and some develop defense mechanisms. Some eat back. Some join in. then legs start, swimming starts, there's other adaptabilities and things like that. So I think we're in a situation where we are a giant build of fighting genetic that wants to get out, whatever it is that's particularly you, that makes you from your lineage, is wanting to direct you forwards. But there's other there's other shut
like
off
genetic
ones in
memory,
there.
sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say the fact that your DNA contains everything, it's a small little hard drive of your entire makeup.
Yeah.
There's a specific gene in there, which is a central gene, which is very central and specific to your certain being, which was the winner of the main fight that made you one. It got to make a good. Maybe it made a decision that you had, your left leg was longer than your right leg.
Fuck that guy.
That kind of level of thing. Like there's always, like you say, when you say people have got similar genetics and stuff. It's because that particular set of genes kind of won out in that area.
Yeah.
If anything, that's where race is born from. You think that set of genes won out across that local area.
Yeah, across that environment as we moved.
So that's
around.
basically so you think how evolution is running and stuff. Evolution never stops and it carries through. And think of where we are at now. Compare that to 10,000 years later. Because you adapt to become you adapt to become the perfect you of your environment.
Yeah, and that is what the gene's trying to do ultimately.
Yeah,
it's trying to modify itself until it's the perfect fit for its environment.
It wants to win out. You're a cesspool mixture of genes that just want to keep themselves safe in a giant meat suit.
And then maybe it gets itself to a point where it's like, now I can start to make sure the environment is the best for me. And I can check, like I can use tools and stuff, I can change the environment to suit me instead of me, because I'm pretty good at it now.
But how do you know in that situation your brain isn't just a congress for the mixture of genes across your entire populous body?
Yeah, it could easily be.
And every single time you're making a decision, your congress is having, because it could be the reason why things exist, such as people being lazy. It's not you being lazy, it's just your congress can't decide. You keep getting stalemates.
Yeah, it's going, no, don't work.
That literally could be it. Your brain is just, it's a central senate, like diplomatic center for your entire body, and your entire
I don't
body.
think consciousness is generated in the brain though, so I don't know if I can interpret
it could be like, no, we can't provide immunity to fight this diarrhea today. He's like, why not? Well, the toenails, they voted in force, and he said no. And you've got to think on a microscopic scale, this is happening like, every
Real
second,
quick.
bang.
Electricity just flying throughout your body.
Yeah. My heels right now, I've been in combat with my kneecaps over whether or not we should have made that click.
Have they?
No.
Oh, you've got other friends.
Cat, go away.
Parsnip?
Oh, where were we then? Aliens?
Aliens. I'm excited to meet those aliens that are out there. The ones that are here doing all the reptilian stuff, the secondary energy bodies on the Queen. I'm not enjoying what they're about. I'd like to see the nice aliens, please.
I reckon there's a strong chance that they don't know what they are. I once saw a Labrador suffering the post end of eating a 20-bit. But you think about how many major revolutionary advancements, how major some creative aspect of things have all been developed under some degree of influence or something or another.
And that'll also impact our experience of the psychedelic when we come into contact with it, like what's going on in civilization. Whether you're a caveman or a person living in New York.
And you think that could be where the inspiration of fire came from in some way for the wheel particular. Certain things you got to
You can see something spinning. You don't often see things spinning.
You see when you're seeing the world for a different aspect as such in your brain, you end up opening yourself up to other thoughts and ideas. You think that's where language develops, because you've got this group of grunting people, and they want to communicate. And they start getting sick of it, and they're all having a laugh, so they're like, and you're like, and then, maybe that's where language started from, maybe clicks dropping in, that kind of level of stuff. Shit, think how stuff develops from there. And we don't know where language began from. I'm assuming that's where it initially came from, clicks and grunts and stuff.
Yeah, there's some languages that still have the clicks. Whistles as well, because you can do whistles over a long distance in dense surroundings.
Your vowels and everything like that, and certain things, they're just noises that come from the mouth, and whatever that noise, different things develop from there.
Yeah, and now it's established.
And
been refined through loads of different languages and
Yeah.
recommissions of languages and new words. And
It could be why shamans are heralded so heavily within tribes, because they're the ones who say on behalf of the tribe get really fucked up all the time, and they're the ones that come out with all these things. So they're adhered to as being sort of like really important, because they come back from the other side and they're like, right lads, think about it. If we get this bit of wood and we core it out, you can tie a rope in it, you stuff your cock in it. Protects your dingus.
I know it sounds crazy.
You don't have to wear grass skate anymore and worry about a snake taking off your tecker. I don't know.
Imagine if they had pockets. Pockets is an idea where you've got another bit of fabric.
Think about it, man. Who came up with the idea? Who sat there one day wearing pants, and went, you know what I really need? A slit in here
Two
with
little
some
pockets.
fabric in, and it'll catch shit. I can hold stuff in my pants. Because then that led on to the invention of the belt.
The wallet. Maybe.
Yeah.
Everything, the whole world, really.
That's where every invention came from somebody who got fucked off with the situation, when there's got to be an easier way to do this.
Well, I think it's the realm of ideas, isn't it? And I think possibly you're floating a bit more madly in it when you're under the influence of various things.
Yeah.
But you can also pull it down from their sober as well.
You can,
get an idea.
It's entirely it's entirely possible to be inspired from farting,
or a need, like a hairbrush.
Yeah.
Or wheels on a suitcase. Why did it take so long between the evolution of suitcases and wheels on a suitcase? Like, that took a long time. Pretty weird.
Because I'd put down to it a lot of the time. I've experienced this myself. No, it's not so much that. It's people in business positions where somebody approaches with the idea and goes, "Why don't we do this?"
Yeah.
And then the person
Ideas universe.
Just
they brought it down.
Some suitcases had wheels on, but they weren't really designed to have wheels on. It was your generic suitcase design, because suitcases have always been quite thin and upright. You could design for carrying them with your hand, and they were also designed in that manner because it was kind of like an accepted design for travel, because you can stack more in an airplane if they're of a certain shape and shit. Now, they used to have wheels on them, and they used to be wobbly as shit and never work. If you moved at speed, you fall fuck over. Not really helpful. And then it took one day, I think, for somebody to turn around and go, "No, they're going to do them another way," and then airlines have just kind of gone, "Oh, fine, we'll fucking take it."
Make the body rigid.
Or just turn the direction, the position of the weight to the other direction. So it's, it kind of, instead of running like a thin, it just runs like, like a brick wall.
Just stack it in there like Lego or something.
But a lot of shit does come down to just fucking directors of companies just love something too much money in something. And then you fight against making any amendments, because they'll just do you could have told us that at the time, we'll put that on the back burner, and it just gets forgotten.
It's a state, mate. People are just doing that game to make money, aren't they? I think capitalism is about making money. Like, trade is about swapping something for something else, like swapping your labour for money.
Yeah.
That's trade. Money is a currency. It's not capitalism. I think capitalism is about that thing that I just said it was about. That's now escaped, but it's recorded. So, sorry.
You know what would be an interesting world? Post-brexit, because it's something I'm curious about when there's all this shit going on at the moment about the government.
They'll find something else to blame everything on.
It's just something when they're saying it's going to be it's illegal for him to do whatever it is they're doing under international law. Yeah. It's the US now saying that if the UK breach the Good Friday Agreement, that
Pelosi,
there'll be no chance of a US trade deal. Imagine Donald Trump's like, no, we got a great trade deal in the world. It's best trade deal in the world.
I haven't heard him speak to that, actually. I heard that Pelosi said that, but I didn't hear Trump say anything about it.
He's probably not been asked about it yet. You think about it,
unless
he's tweeted about it.
Surely, Brexit, he'll get asked about it. They love Brexit in the media.
Oh,
Brexit's back.
yeah, but it depends on US media. It
Mm.
depends who's there in the room with him at
That's
the time.
true.
You might not have. There could be any measure of control on the media and shit in that
There
White
is.
House.
There certainly is. We'll let you ask this once we've got a good answer for it.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got to fucking think.
Access.
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 That just confused my train of thought, man.
That's what journalists prize. They have access to government advisors and officials. So if they want to know something about the government, they can just call up someone in the government, and most of the time they'll get told whatever the government want to tell them about it.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, oh yeah, I know you're telling me bollocks, but I'm gonna say it anyway because you're my buddy.
Well, yeah, I think that what comes down to the fact as well that you get the control measures put in place where you get told that if you say this information, if you publish this information off, you'll think about this is good. Going back to Epstein, there's a good example of that with Epstein. A reporter had all for a news organization had all the information. It might have been for Fox or CNN. Like they had all this information like fucking 2 years ago before Epstein was arrested. Like the kind of story that would have blown everything out of proportion. But he was involved in Prince Andrew. That was it. He was involved in Prince Andrew's involvement with Epstein. They had it 2 years ago. They had it all packaged together, and then 2 years later, suddenly it all fucking springs out.
Yeah, they were told they couldn't run it.
Yeah, because otherwise, then they would lose access to anything to do with the royal family. Like it was that kind of like threat. But you'd have thought a credible journalism kind of company would have turned around and gone, "Fine, fuck you. This is more worthwhile than reporting on what Princess Kaylee was wearing for best friend's bar mitzvah." I don't know what kind of events they do. I don't know much about the royal family other than they occasionally appear up on the news.
Well, I mean, they do stuff with like owls and stuff, don't they? They're into owls. What do you call it when you stain something with your disgusting existence? They like do that to bits of nice, pretty woodland where there's like ancient sites and stuff, and they go to places and do terrible things and just ruin everything. That's what they want to do, and it's because they think that humans need to be that people can't be trusted to run themselves, but some people can be trusted to run everybody. And that some people need to govern everybody and tell everybody what to do.
I think that's
true.
I think that's just general community behaviour. Because you can reflect on any group
in a community, of course. Yeah.
Any group of mammals that travels in a large majority, other than zebras, have got a kind of a structure, if you will, where you have an alpha who leads everything, and the alpha is always the strongest male.
Yeah.
Everyone follows behind said person. In some species, some males will be within the group and stuff, but you've just got the one lead male. Other species, there's not a single other male allowed within the group, so you end up with bachelor groups.
But then we're the species who ate the mushrooms and are now the building builders. So, it's more open to us now, I think, than those traditional structures. At least I think perhaps they're not as applicable to society as they are to a small group of people, because that's like a family unit almost, and then an extended family unit. Where like the people you're travelling with are like your third cousins or something at most, or something close to that.
But you get that kind of fucking thing, but some people are followers. It seems to be naturally ingrained with them. We know people who are like that. They don't really push to be the leader in the group there. They don't want to make the decision where we're going. They just want to kind of join along for the ride.
Yeah.
That some people are like that, and they require that kind of mothering, if you will. Not mothering, but guidance, if you will. They need that person to be the authority, and that's, if you think when that builds up to a certain level, when you've got so much going on, so many people, so far down, you have to keep breaking the tree into different branches.
Yeah. I just don't think it works on society as en masse. I think locally and in the place where you spend your life, there should be groups like that. I do think that happens. That's a natural way for people to interact. But if you try and put that on society as a big thing, then it's a small amount of people doing that to a large amount of people instead of the people doing it to themselves.
But this is how everything's already done that.
Yeah.
We developed past that because they found that there was a different way to do it that was more efficient.
But I don't know
That's where.
if we had decent people running the show and it wasn't all corrupt.
Oh yeah, now. But,
Yeah.
Those are the thing. This is how society runs, is constantly evolving. Society doesn't stay the same. Otherwise, we'd still be hanging people.
Yeah, of course, and it changes depending on the large moves that are made within it, I suppose.
Unfortunately, it just occasionally takes a catastrophe or something surreal to then give the course of things to develop like that. But civilization develops consistently and constantly. It's evolving. You can kind of say now the current situation we're in is shit.
Yeah.
It's better than it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It just progressed, and it became itself, and it became something new, which is what we wanted.
Yeah.
But eventually, it outdates itself, which is when that's when things need to change. The only thing is that people seem to forget that but by the time the change needs to happen, everyone's already forgotten how the change happened last time, who was alive at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because you think how, like, see now, we're able to monitor it a lot better through digital capabilities and stuff, of how certain cultural developments shift and change. Like I say, everyone seems to always forget on the fact that the world is different now compared to what it was 50 years ago. Say with the whole situation with leaving the EU and stuff, the world is different now to what it was when the EU started. Things like this, and then the majority of people who were alive and voted for this whole thing to join the EU in the first place, they might not even be alive right now for the vast majority of and stuff. And these major things change. They might not seem right at the time, but they might seem right for the time, kind of thing.
Yeah, like the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Not the hero we need, but the hero we deserve, or something.
Yeah.
That's the one, isn't it? I say, fuck 'em. Let's go and do a little cult in the woods and.
Well, this is the thing. Like, things might collapse back down to that. It might end up being that what needed to happen was, in order for us to evolve technologically, we needed to do that. But maybe this is the point where we're getting to a point of technological advancement where, say, self-sustainability can be done on a small scale within a smaller community, so that you can now collapse cities, put people into smaller communities. But then how is that governed? Because then if you remove government and policing, you then...
Not all of the policing, still have detectives, but yes.
But because the thing is, then all you're going to end up running in with, you'll have your small communes, but your communes are going to feud, they're going to fight.
And you resolve
People
those
are gonna,
things.
But then you've got a commune down the road that's got access to a resource you need access to.
No, you don't want... That's not self-sufficiency then.
They're the only soul... this is the fucking thing that happens.
If they've got avocados and you haven't, then you need to learn how to grow avocados. Don't go over and mess about.
Yeah,
You've got to have.
Maybe you need clay maybe you need clay for building, and they've got.
See if you can do a bit of trade. Trade's the more common, like when two groups meet. In like old history, when we were tribal moving around and stuff, when two groups meet, the most common outcome is trade. And conflict is usually something that happens when two groups have known each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
And like things have your granddad was this, and well, your cousin fucking was a whore, and stuff like that. And like it builds up over time. Usually when two groups meet, trade is the more likely outcome. So if you've got your two communes, if you're fucking two communes and you're next door to each other, you should be trading. You should be
take this.
Doing shit.
Take this scenario for granted. Yeah. You live in an area, there's 16 little separate communes. You're about a good 2 hours walk away from each other. Not majorly too far. But out of everybody in the area, for some reason, when you all thought you had even ground, that everyone had the exact same resources, this one place suddenly discovers that they have a copper mine.
Right.
They have a copper deposit. At this point, 15 other communes, they discover copper would be really useful to their lives, because with the discovery of copper at this commune, they're able to develop something. They can make, I don't know, pans maybe.
Pans, definitely.
Made fucking cooking a world of easier. Yeah. Problem is, on discovery of this copper a couple of weeks before, and they were at a big meet. They were at some big, maybe festival they all thrown, and everyone called this commune a bunch of pricks. This commune's a bit pissed off at everybody else now,
Yeah.
but this commune's not stupid and has realised they can charge whatever they want
Yeah.
and control everybody with this copper.
Fucking snowflake capitalist, that's what that is.
You got a big dad of copper there who's the leader of that commune, because you're always going to end up with leadership no matter what. It's always going to be that central person. He decides and sells off to the rest of the group, we're going to own this entire valley, and that is what I did. That's the problem right there.
That guy is the problem.
And then
he should never be allowed anywhere near.
We swell back out again, but we put this is what this is the thing. This is where government comes into play, because elected government, there are departments and stuff set up to regulate things to prevent this from happening, so that you can't refuse trade or overcharge.
Yeah.
And the police are involved to then go, well, you can't to help prevent or stop any further issues of extortion and shit.
Yeah.
Because this is the problem. People get greedy.
Yeah, you should have detectives that are looking into people that are behaving in morally reprehensible ways.
But the police, the existence of police is there aren't supposed to be on hand to stop crime happening.
Stop crime would be great. Yeah. Stopping crime would most of the time it's solving crime.
I would like to just stand up for the police for 1 second on the fact that, given the situation that we have a lot of issues with the police, I put a lot of issues down to the fact that because there's been so many heavy budget cuts given.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it.
Numbers have been lowered down so fucking severely that I reckon some part of training, maybe not training, but under instruction, they're told you've got to be a lot rougher and dickish with people and so, because they don't have the numbers and they don't have time to waste with a lot of things.
And there's civil unrest going on.
And people do what the bosses tell them to do. They think when you're joining something like the police, and everyone wants to be a policeman to help save people and fight crime. Some
people are going to make a lot of money.
But at the same time, when you got these people going into
I'm on the inside.
To be fair, I imagine the vast majority of people are joining this for a good reason.
Definitely the vast majority.
Same as wanting to be a doctor or a mortician, not to bang corpses and stuff.
But they follow orders, and that's the problem. I think it's the same in the military. It's a bit difficult in the military because then you get into terms of mercenaries, really. But the fact that they just have to follow these orders, because there'll be loads of police who are at the fracking protest who are just there to help lorries get onto site. That's all they were doing.
Think about the thought train on this, though. Right, that's what they're to do. That right. Think what they were told at HQ, though. You've become a policeman to do the right thing. You want to be a policeman because you want to help save the community, and help save people, stop crime, stop issues of injustice. Think what they're being fed at work. We'd have no idea what's said in their meetings, what their captains are like, what their briefings are like. We don't know what they're being told to do.
It'll decrease crime by providing jobs for people. That's demonstrably false, and any police officer could look that up themselves and find out.
But it's the thing, they're in the wrong for a vast majority of things, but they also think they're in the right, because think about, you've joined the police force to do good. You think you're working for the good guy.
Yeah.
Even if...
that seems like you'd be quite naive to think that after...
Think about your classic hero story. The villain in that movie is the good guy to all their henchmen.
Yeah.
That's fucking... That is the train of thought, no matter what.
And often the villain is in charge of the protagonist, he's the boss of the protagonist sort of thing, and he's doing it that way,
and people need to reflect back that some of these things aren't just fantasy. They happen, that they were inspired by real world fucking things. It's where a lot of ideas still come from. Inspiration comes from your environment 90% of the time, and some of you'll be sat there and be like, wow, I'm gonna write about this.
Yeah, write that shit down. Make a book. Do a book. Must take a lot to do a book. A lot of writing down.
Well, books are written after.
They are, yeah. And I mean, all you've got to do is do the thing until it's finished. I love things like that.
I've heard it can be quite novel.
Oh. It's probably not very novel at all. In fact, there's a lot of books now. Probably used to be novel. It's not anymore. There's fucking loads of them. But it can be quite novel in the content, and it can be ever more novel. Isn't it weird how arts and stuff like that get ever more thingy, like horror movies, like they used to be shit, and now they're really good, and movies in general, and ideas are getting of a higher and higher, or at least a crazier and crazier quality. The things that the ideas that people are bringing into reality are getting more and more bizarre as reality gets more and more bizarre. And
To be fair, a lot of that comes down to social acceptance, cultural development again. Like, think about in comparison to the stories that can be shown, pervade in movies now in comparison to the 80s. The Exorcist, when it was released, that was, it was banned.
Yeah, and people were terrified of it. They genuinely were, because that was the highest point at that time.
Yeah, and that's only because that was what they were all out to show.
Yeah.
Desensitization happens, and then movie executives then have to try and find different ways to shock people.
Definitely true in horror.
That's when shit becomes more acceptable.
Like, I watched that Mother movie, and I was like, so this entire movie was about that one scene, wasn't it, where the baby's getting thrown around? And I was like, that bit where the neck goes. I was like, right, so you had that idea, that'd be shocking, and then you made a movie that led up to that point, and you're like, well, it has to just be bonkers and arty, and nothing actually happened in that. I don't know what actually happened in that movie. I don't think anything.
Is that the one with the ghost that takes on the two orphan kids?
No, it's the one with the ghost that takes on the two orphan kids.
Oh,
no, that's Mama. Yeah, no.
It's just the one with
Jennifer. What's her face out of
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
Oh, no, isn't it?
It's pretty. What movie was it again?
Wow.
That just completely went.
That is what.
And once you go, it's gone. Then it's gone forever, innit? You can never get that back.
That was a brain fart and a half, man.
Brain diarrhea. Quite possibly. Jennifer, what's her face? She was in Mother. Oh my god, I can just edit that. Yeah, she's in it, and it's about her and a fella going mental.
Yeah.
Locked up. Like in a house together, and loads of weird shit either happens or she imagines it. I don't know. Fucking all a dream for all I know, that movie. But it was just to get to that scene, and I was like, that's just pushing the boundary for the sake of pushing the boundary. Did you see Midsommar though?
You showed me Midsommar.
Man, that broke.
It was after one of these podcasts we watched Midsommar.
I mean, that broke some new ground in horror. I think I'd not seen that.
Like PewDiePie.
No,
Spoiler
the fucking
alert.
the big spoiler, the rock face,
Oh yeah.
That was. Yeah, spoiler alerts.
Well, you say that, but they practically did the same scene in Endgame.
Well, it wasn't so graphic.
Well,
What happened in Endgame? What, when he...
I should do a spoiler alert. Endgame Endgame with the.
I'll put in the description spoiler alert somewhere.
Could be spoiler alert for a lot of shit.
Could be. The future.
Endgame. Endgame, when they get one of the stones, I can't remember which one. Somebody has to sacrifice himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Interesting fact. If you watch Infinity War, you can see the blood mark from where she lands in Endgame.
Yeah. I forgot to check. Keep an eye out for that. I did when I saw it, and then by the time I saw the new one, I was like,
that's good writing.
That is it. What
every fucking detail, man.
Yeah, it's a good universe. I'm disappointed in the DC universe. They had a really good angle. They could have gone down with Chris Nolan's Batman.
I know.
They could have had Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I don't think that was worth dragging out anymore, man.
No?
I think by the third one, because of the death of what's he called again?
Alfred? No.
Alfred.
Alfred? No.
What's his face that played the Joker?
Oh, Heath Ledger.
That was it, Heath Ledger. Because of the death of Heath Ledger, I reckon that he was going to tie in, to the third film, so they had to change it a lot. And I reckon it just couldn't be what it was. It's like the last Star Wars.
I still enjoyed it, mate. I still enjoyed the last one. But also, Thingy did a good job recently, didn't he? Joker. That movie called Joker.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
I love that movie, man.
Apparently, I heard. Whacking. Like Spanish J. Whacking Phoenix.
Oh, right.
That's what I heard.
Whacking Phoenix.
Whacking Phoenix.
Well, I reckon people need. I reckon the issue's always been with the DC universe on the fact that you've got strong characters, like, but there's never been a lot of confidence with carrying them forward because the issue has always been casting, and where it's not. It's not hard to fucking ruin Batman. We saw that with George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's easy to ruin a character and oversaturate him. But you've got popular characters, and the two popular characters in the DC universe has always been Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
I
hate Superman.
The problem is they've always been fearful to introduce any of the other characters because you've got Wonder Woman, who think about her original portrayal.
Yeah.
You've got the Hulk, who's hard to do. Not the Hulk, sorry, fucking the Hulk. I got Aquaman.
Yeah.
And his portrayal's always been a bit cringe, cringe-worthy.
It's always been quite a cheesy looking thing for the superheroes, like kind of two-dimensional. Well, not so much in character, but two-dimensional in their portrayal. Like, ha ba 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 ba.
Well, it's just taking them to have a bit of confidence to step forwards with this shit and kind of do something. Like think about they made a good effort.
Yeah.
They set off Aquaman pretty well. Everyone was the Wonder Woman shit.
Yeah.
People were getting on board with the Batman stuff. People were on board with the Superman. They managed to do genius casting the entire way through. The only problem was with the whole thing that happened with Justice League. It fucking killed everything because unfortunately, they did the one thing they shouldn't have done.
What was that?
They fucked with the original version, whereas say what their original plan was pretty sound.
Yeah.
From what I knew of it at the time, I liked the idea of where it was going, but I think it was Zack Snyder or whatever. Something happened, and then not Josh Whedon. I can't remember the other guy's name because they call it Justice League now. But the guy who took over the directorship, he got the film and he rewrote it and did whatever. Did something completely fucking different. Whereas say when they're bringing out the Snyder Cut now, and he's saying that everyone's practically done. He said everything was practically done, finished.
He
just came in and changed the entire thing and he fucked it, which seems to have had the cascade effect across the rest of the continuity of the films. However, because DC have somewhat outwitted Marvel to an extent in a terrible way, but you've got this thing with the multiverse, which they started back a while ago with the TV show and the Flash TV show, which is a really, really lazy way to kind of go, all the things are canon, so you can drag everything under its belt, but it opens up for some exciting shit at least.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing with the Flash, like they did in the TV series, was he was stepping between dimensions. He was going to different Earths and stuff. They were introducing different levels of the Flash. They were pulling in other characters that way and stuff, keeping the show fresh. They'd already hit on time travel pretty successfully. So they've kind of beat Marvel ahead of a lot of the sci-fi nerdy shit. But I was on TV, whereas Marvel's been focusing on film.
Right, okay.
The TV shit's been really successful with a lot of the underlying characters. They're not as successful in big ones other than The Flash. Because Green Arrow was good. And he managed to make it successful by making it a bit dark and Batman-y kind of.
Yeah.
And I think that successfully will have at least created some kind of fan base, because the thing is, if you think about the attitude that's carried with the films, a lot of the time is a counter against what DC are about, and it's about dark and gritty storylines most of the time. Think Batman, everything about it is dark and gritty, man.
Yeah.
And shit like that, people killed left, right, and centre. It was gnarly stuff. Like, Marvel's always been a bit more kid-friendly.
I want to see some more 2000 AD universe, because that's a really rich universe, and they've got a lot of different. It's not just Judge Dredd. There's loads of different. I'd love to see some kind of Slain movie. I think that'd be really interesting.
They're doing another Blade movie.
Are they doing Blade?
Yeah, I know it's Marvel, but
is it Marvel?
Yeah. Oh no, Blade.
I thought it was Image.
No, that was the reason that my head set on the thing. It's not Blade. What's the other? There was Spawn.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to think Supernatural and.
Yeah. Spawn's got potential.
but with modern day like CGI things like that.
Yeah, the thing is, like sometimes with maybe with the Batman movies to a degree as well, technology hadn't caught up to the point the ideas about the character and about the story had.
Yeah, I think Avatar,
Yeah,
Christopher Nolan's Avatar, was in the making for a long time. It's just the
Yeah.
technology wasn't there for him to do it.
Yeah, well, Avatar 2 is the same in it. That's due out like 2024 or 25 or something. Is it?
I've been to Avatar Land at Disney
Have you?
Florida. I have ridden the ride, Flight of Passage.
You don't get to be an Avatar though, do you?
Oh yeah,
Do you?
yeah.
Amazing.
You fly in the back of a banshee.
Oh right.
It's it's like a 4D kind of simulator
Yeah.
kind of ride thing. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But you see visuals that I'm assuming is given the amount of like world development in it, it's like you see what you're gonna see within the next 5 run of movies and stuff. There's like water stuff, like sea, islands. It is fucking. It is a visual spectacle, man.
It is cool when someone creates a whole world or universe like that.
And it just seems like it's just such an ironic fucking rip. Like I'm hoping it's a continuation on the rip on the the development of the USA.
It's developed in such a sad way. Some good ways. Started in a good way, kind of. No, it didn't. It started for fair hats, didn't it? And territory. But largely fair hats, wasn't it? Like the whole bear trapping thing was.
Yeah, it was
the whole
like fair trapping was a lot.
Yeah. So people could wear fancy hats who had lots of money. Fucking hat makers. They were they were the downfall.
Everything's got to start from somewhere, man.
Yeah. Hat makers.
When you find
That's how you shall know them. They'll all have a knowledge. They'll have to learn the knowledge of making a hat.
When you find the abundance of a resource, you have to then create a product to be able to develop a market for something to sell to.
Yeah, capitalism is the market, isn't it?
Mm. Speaking of capitalism, though, I think that's the downfall issue with the majority of issues when it's come to the DC universe, because they're trying to just put profit again ahead of common sense with a lot of things.
Well,
like common
so
sense.
Marvel, you know, they've got Chinese censors, haven't they? Like in South Park. Have you seen that South Park?
No.
The Chinese censorship South Park. Oh man, Mickey Mouse returns in it.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this whole like this is the thing like because they're putting profit ahead of everything else. They're thinking what is going to get the most money and why just going like this Robert Pattinson Batman. The moment I heard about Robert Pattinson, I was going, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
But you forget the fact that he's done more than Twilight, and it was obviously not his fault that
It's not his fault.
If you forget sometimes it's not the actor's fault that the movie was terrible because they were just part of a thing put together.
Yeah.
But if they're doing the long Halloween storyline and it's based Batman Year 2, it's more of an original concept movie wise than they've done previously, and it looked gritty as shit.
Yeah, the trailer looked really good.
Beats the fucking living shit out of some guy. And the fact that they're finally, and this is the one thing they fucking fucked up on so much, they're finally accessing the Rogues Gallery in force.
Don't know what it is.
The Rogues Gallery.
No.
Your
The
Rogues
Gallery.
like Batman's Rogues Gallery is a collection of all the villains, if you will.
All right. Okay.
Think of the extent of the Rogues Gallery that is underneath Batman alone. Fuck off the rest of the DC universe. It's a bit like Spider-Man, if you will. Spider-Man's got loads of villains. Think of Batman who's got so many interesting villains and so many fucking things.
Yeah.
And the movies all they've ever done is kind of just show 2.
Yeah, that's true.
Badly, but this is like it's a free sequel run fucking film, and they're not introducing anybody as like a fucking loads of origin shit and stuff. This is just Gotham now, and he's trying to find something, and it's going through. He's supposed to like come and encounter like shitloads of the different villains.
Nice, like a proper detective, Batman the detective sort of.
It's supposed to be like a detective, like noir-esque more kind of film.
And I think detective is the really important part of the police. I think people who are tracking people who are trying to gain an advantage by doing some devious shit, or like playing games and shit. I think a detective's track people who are trying to manipulate other people or abuse other people, whether that's physically or financially or whatever. Detectives to find that kind of stuff, and violent people who might be violent.
That was quite a protestful.
I reckon all the people you need to lock up are violent people, thieves and fraudsters. I think they're the only people that need to be separated from society in that manner.
Yeah, but who defines who's violent until a crime's been committed?
Well, that's the thing. Most crime it's solved after it's committed.
But who's supposed to be the first responder?
The first responder to the violent thing.
Because the detective's
Who's
job
gonna
is to
have-
just like.
He's got to find out afterwards, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you've got to have somebody respond to the incident, like paramedics.
But they just attend after the
But
situations.
they're not going to
happen.
get there before it happens, are they? Who's getting there before it happens?
But imagine there's a bit of a standoff going on.
Well, you send the paramedics in ready.
Man, but then that would basically make
Let them do what they're going to do.
That would make
If they want to have a standoff, have a fucking
that
standoff.
would make him a police medic.
A police medic. No, they don't have to do anything. They just wait there in case someone gets shot. What do the police do?
So that's
Shout a
basically
bunch of
saying if there's a that's basically like saying if somebody's rung up and been like, "There's a man in my house, and I'm into the bathroom. He's got a knife. I need help." And then the person who ran the space upon his line is like, "It's all right. We'll send some medics down." He's like, "Oh, they're going to come help." So now they're just going to stand there and wait for to see what happens.
They'll just be outside.
They're just going to see what happens. They might put bets on. William Hill will have stakes in that.
But when do the police turn up and stop something like that? That doesn't happen, does it?
Not anymore. It doesn't. It used
No,
to.
Did it?
Think about the speed the police used to be able to arrive at.
What, while someone's getting robbed? In the Morris Minor?
Mate, when I was
Oh, how far back are we going?
probably like 18.
Alright, okay.
That's usually the thing. The cuts to the police force have been so severe
Yeah.
over the last 10 years.
Yeah, they've been decimated and asked to do more.
I was, and this is the thing, like when I was, we're on the bandstand, Blackpool Promenade. There was these guys, we were jumping off the seawall. I'm not going to dance around the situation.
Breaking the law!
These three guys are out and having drinks and shit. They were like fucking mid-20s or something like that. They got like they were oh yo, look at these lads, what they're doing and that, and then they all climbed over the railings and stuff, and they were all egging each other on to go and that. One of the guys was a bit of a largish guy. He's like this guy they were with pushed him off, and he landed like flat on his arse, face slapped down, his eyes were bleeding and stuff.
Oh.
Police were there, like literally.
Shame they weren't paramedics.
Well, we rang, like, someone rang 999,
Yeah.
and, 999 just kind of tell everybody who's relevant to the situation. Police were there in a flash.
What, they were already there?
Like, no, it's like, after ringing them, we're in like a minute or two.
Oh,
and it's
really?
the thing, yeah. If we'd have done that today, police...
Yeah, you wouldn't get that aid instantly.
No,
Yeah,
you'd also get told there was probably like a 40... I've got a good example, and this is not for him. This is a couple of years ago. I was walking through town. It was middle of winter. It was one of them nights where it went dank cold.
Yeah.
Like the floor was icy. You could see your breath. Like you were glad you were pissed because you were still shivering.
Jesus Christ.
We came me and Twist. We came across this lad. He was on the floor, passed out. On the floor, and it was an initial giggle. I've stopped, turned around, and been like, right, no, we need to fucking help this guy out, because I was looking, he had his pants around his ankles, he was only in a polo shirt.
Right.
And it was that kind of night he was going to go hypothermic and die. He looked like a young lad. Long story short, I fucking went to help out this lad. He was turning hypothermic, basically, because people kept walking past laughing at him. I rang immediately rang 999. We're there just trying to keep him warm up, keep him a bit fucking conscious and stuff. And I'm on the phone with 999, like, ring him. It's like, yeah, we found this situation. He's hypothermic and stuff. Like, he's cold to the touch and stuff. And he's like, yeah, like, we get someone out. Half an hour later, bear in mind we're in the town centre. Like, and you usually have an ambulance within the town centre or more than one because of incidents. But the thing is, though, it was early in the night. Right. Probably talking like 10:30. Ring him up after half an hour. Yeah, I rang him before about this and stuff. And then after speaking to him then, and reminding him the fact he was hypothermic and he was feeling colder to the touch, they were then like, all right, I'm going to stay on the line to you and stuff. And I'm like, right, how long are they going to be? He's like, well, I can't give you an ETA right now. And we're talking nearly an hour.
Holy shit.
So in theory, we kept this lad alive for an hour by bundling him with coats and shit before the ambulance turned up.
Just wrapped him up.
Yeah, and even then, like, they just turned up and got him to his feet and made him walk to the fucking ambulance. That could be a medical thing, though. That could just be because it might be to get the muscles working again, to try and warm him back up a bit, getting coherent. But
Yeah, and see if there's anything.
and I'm not blaming like the paramedics or anything, but you know for a fact that's cuts. But what we're going on about back in, this guy came off the seafront, landed, fucking bleeding out his eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
The ambulance was there within fucking minutes.
The ambulance.
Yeah. Ambulance was there within minutes. Compare that against today, it'd have been a fucking hour or something.
They definitely have had the cuts, all of them, all the public things.
It's definitely just happening so that people get so sick to death of it that they'll welcome privatisation.
It's because you can't. Well, yeah, that, and you can't afford to do that and funnel all the tax money off to your mates. You gotta pick one or the other, really, or at least degrees of one. I'll give them a little bit every now and then.
I wonder what's going to come. I wonder what's going to come of all the investigations going into the failed PPE things.
I think the cut-off date's gone now, isn't it?
How do you mean?
There was a cut-off date for claiming it, and that's why you don't see the adverts anymore.
No, it's basically because the government gave out quite a large sums of money to PPE contracts.
Yeah.
So for some of them, nothing actually came of it. And you're talking like large, 8-figure sums. Which seems like a bit of a give me money, like hand money over to a mate kind of thing, a bit under the table, and then just claim it was a failed contract. But where's the money?
It's all the time, innit? All that sort of shit going on. And they're being a bit brazen about it at the minute, really, with the whole COVID thing and all the stuff that's been funneled off to the mates' companies that don't have anything to do with PPE or track and trace or anything.
That track and trace thing, man. Oh my god.
Other countries managed it.
But the amount of money.
I wouldn't be game for it, like. But
the amount. It was somebody on YouTube said it. It was I can't remember what the thing was, and he said basically like for the amount of weight that's gone into this track and trace app, they've done it for like 5 figures.
Yeah.
But they've sunk like 100 odd million or something into something that doesn't work, and this is like the Olympics fucking logo all over again. Cost several million. And you're kind of looking at going, I could have done that at the weekend, and I'd have probably given up my mate for like tenner.
Yeah, I often wish we could get quotes for these government jobs, these big jobs. Just like, I'll do it for 100 grand. Like for a really big thing. 100 grand, go on, I'll get my mate to chip in.
It's just not. There's just too much bullshit on the go.
Too much bullshit. And people consume it, don't they? We like fall into this trap of we need these things. We need new things, need to have new... But you do also, it's good to have new stuff, see new stuff. It's a double-edged sword, but I think it's attachment probably, isn't it, people would say? Being attached to the things. The things are alright, it's fun to look at a cuckoo clock, or like a pretend chicken, or a cock rabbit, or another pretend chicken. But attachment to them is a dangerous thing, and it can lead you into always wanting more and being like, oh yeah, that thing on the TV, I should definitely get that.
That's
Got to get a mortgage, got to do all these things, got to do whatever things you've got to do.
You're talking to somebody whose job it is to make people want to buy those things.
Yes, but I mean, there's a need for it.
I don't. But this is the thing. You have to bear in mind, and I'll be blunt with it because it sounds quite nihilistic. But when the approach that I've kind of found people tend to take is, and this is from going over, looking over resources about, marketing development and stuff. The common thing I've come across is that it basically seems to be, it don't matter what the fuck the product is. You're literally, it could be the worst, most fucked up product in the world that's going to break constantly. That's not you problem.
That is a you problem, bringing it to the market.
No, man. All someone's just told me is gone, right, we've got this product, there's some problems with it, I'm not going to tell you what those problems are, but you need to make this look nice and just make people want to buy it. I don't know what the problems are with the product. because there's
A
the
lot of the
detachment
time it'll
in that
give you
sense.
cancer or something.
But is the thing, the marketing department generally won't find out about problems with a product until they come to light, because then they come back to the marketing department and go, we've got a problem.
Yeah,
We
well,
need you to remarket the product.
R&D, man, R&D. You need to do your R&D.
This is where you say quite about companies forcing shit across marketing departments.
Russian things.
You can't blame the marketing department for pushing a product.
No, they're just following orders.
Yeah, I could find out. The products I'm pushing could cause. I'm not going down this trail, because if I say something and that gets clipped out, somebody's going to use that against.
Danger.
That's my brain's just kicked in and going, whoa, hang on a second.
Well, I mean, it could be for any company. I used to work for a company where, after time, I became dubious of what we were selling on the phones and what it really was. And I wasn't comfortable continuing. But then they moved me into the payday loans bit, and somehow that was fine, even though they had horrible contracts. They had a thing in the contract. It was one of the only people that did it, where the contract said we could just reach into your bank account at any time and attempt to get the money back. And our job was to do that once a day with the people who hadn't paid it back and answer the phones. So it was a pretty cushy little thing. I just read Cracked all day, really.
Yeah.
So it was that sort of era. Yes, we used to just be able to reach into it any time, and a friend that worked there, he always tells the story of, we had this one woman who phoned us up like the last weekend before Christmas. She was like, I've just gone out to do my Christmas shopping and there's no money in my account. I can't even get the bus home. You've taken all the money out of my account. And the guy on the phone, I'm glad it wasn't me, he was just like, oh well, I'm really sorry about that, but can't do anything. It's in the contract. Sorry about that. Do you anything else? Like, there's nothing to be said. And it was just cruel as fuck, but that was less difficult because it wasn't something that we were really pursuing with a person. We were just trying these numbers once a day and occasionally speaking to angry people on the phone.
That's fucking harsh, though.
And often trying to ring people that just obviously had not that phone number.
That's
and they just nicked it.
That is fucking horrible, though, on the fact that they, like, on the fact that, a company can be in place to do something like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of companies are selling useless products that add nothing to society. When it's something that's actually got a use, then it's a different thing. And it's like things like tattooists and people who sell products that have genuine uses that people need to use,
I think sometimes it's like you're saying, when you grew wise to some of the issues, like some of the things you're doing at your company. Yeah, like company I used to work at, call centre. I used to answer phone calls for. I can't remember the company's called. I think it was Nalco, something with a chemical
Allegedly.
Distribution company. They produced a chemical called Corexit. It's oil. I can't remember the specific product. So this might not be correct, but it was basically designed to atomize crude oil.
Alright.
To dissipate oil spills. The problem is it atomizes it. It makes it look like it's disappeared. But what it took is something really nasty, and then made it into a smaller than bite-sized piece. So it gets into everything. Gulf of Mexico is fucked. But I found about the fact that this company produces this chemical, and this is what it's done, and the issues it was causing, because now you're having issues with acid rain and stuff in areas across Mississippi and shit. It's messed up as hell. It's been going on for years, but there's a lot of deniability about it, even though they're still supplying this fucking Corexit and stuff. But I found out about this, and I found out this company were doing fucking business for. I stood my ground, and I turned to my supervisor, I turned to my team leaders, and I recently found this out. It's like, I said to him, I'm not answering the lines to that company anymore. They were on a button on the phone, so you had to press to answer it, and I said to him, I'm refusing to answer it to him, and he said to me, and he said to me, he's like, well, obviously I can appreciate it had to be professional in the measure. Because sometimes you get those people you work with are a bit corporate on that measure, and he said to me about that, well, fair enough, like, this is your choice in the measure, however, I'm going to have to bring this up with the director. Nothing ever came of it. And I think, like, because obviously what I've been told, like, what I think when it's been brought up about it and I've made my case, they've had to do it. It's fair enough. All I hope is that possibly caused a bit of a maybe we need to rethink our business measures thing.
You could hope, couldn't you?
Because if you think you wouldn't be aware of that information until somebody told you.
Yeah.
It's a very specific. Were you aware of that?
You may have even just sowed a little bit of discord and anarchy in that next up the line chap's mind there.
There's evidence out there to prove it. By all means, I can't be challenged on this because there is evidence out there for it. People have gone down to the sites, the depots, where this chemical has been stored. There is trace to show the chemical being transferred onto planes where it's dispersed from, planes and helicopters. It might be wrong. It wasn't even of it. It's whatever way it's been showing on video, like being like how it's dispersed and stuff. It's been showing in storage. There's evidence to show it everywhere. There's evidence to prove it's been caused and what it's causing because of the issues that have happened environmentally and people getting burned from rain and stuff. Where does rain come from? The surrounding seawater. If it's evaporated, if it's got atomized crude oil in it, and shit.
Oily rain.
Yeah, the evidence is out there for it, and that's just some nasty ass fucking cover up. But like I say, it's down to employees when they're in a company to turn around and make a stand for it and go, "This isn't fucking right."
Yeah, and we need whistleblowers everywhere.
If you're inside, you're in a strong position. I can advocate for the fact that the zoo industry is fucked up, man. Like Tiger King brought to light something that happened in a seedy kind of like B level, like not even B level, like D level zoo. That's realistic. That shit. Have you seen Tiger King yet?
Yeah.
That shit. That is not just there. You think because when you look at Doc Antle, and you think there's a documentary and it's a docu-series in itself based on him.
Right.
That's the guy with the long white hair.
Yes.
The other owner. He himself. Right, they are not the only two. They are not the only two. Carol Baskin's not the only one of them and stuff. They are all over the fucking world.
Yeah.
And they are in our zoos in this country. It sounds like it's a fucking like preachy warning thing, but this is...
Many industries as well have got those guys in.
Yeah, but in the zoo industry, it genuinely does come across. It depends whose dick you're willing to suck in the vast majority.
Right.
I'm trying to get in somewhere like Chester. Like Chester Zoo, as far as I'm aware, has phenomenal like set up with the staff and stuff.
I heard that to get into the one. Which one's the one Lord Bass got? Or had?
Longleat.
Longleat. You have to eat a baby to get employed there. Because he was high up in the cult. Or at least he was in middle.
I know keepers who work there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was he a weirdo?
Apparently so.
Was he disconcerting?
Nice person, but...
Really?
Yeah. However, apparently there was an instruction you were told that if they are at any point told to do anything by the Lord, they had to do it. Like if he said anything, like they basically, if he ordered anything, they had to do whatever he ordered.
Yeah. If he asked you to hide a body, you say, where would you like it hidden?
There's every possibility of.
Yeah, he was a weird character, wasn't he?
Yeah, apparently
Maxwell hung out.
Apparently he had a wife, and then he also had wifelets.
He had 17 wifelets.
There you go then.
Yeah, and he had a charity event for Ghislaine Maxwell in the 80s.
He's probably involved in this shit, man.
But she was a British socialite, you know. She was
Well, again, yeah.
part of the same circuit Saville was, really.
I suppose you can't tie everybody with one in the same brush, though.
No, you can't. You can't. And it does pay to be cautious.
It's like I was saying before about the fact that a lot of shit's going to come out following on from this whole Epstein thing, and you can't hold everybody to account for having any involvement because you don't know who is the victim and who is involved.
Yeah, definitely a bunch of people. Well, yeah, and there's also that thing of because it's that blackmail sort of operation, the intelligence gathering and the blackmailing. If everyone's doing that to each other, then that's bound to happen, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, just go full circuit back to the original, like where we started off on. It's just fucking. There's a lot of shit going on.
Too much shit going on.
And it's a lot of stuff is too. Like, I think it's hard pills to swallow for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which even for me personally, there's some stuff coming forward, and you're like, when you're finding out about other things, especially when there seems to be like a credible evidence behind said things and stuff, and it's hard to try and accept whether or not it is real, because we are in a day and age now where you don't know who to trust again.
No.
You don't know who you can believe. You don't
Even
know.
the conspiracy sphere, you don't know that it's right. It might not be right. It might be some country's disinformation.
Yeah.
Not your own.
And you don't know if somebody just, dropped the seed in of a story they
Yeah.
came up with that just sounded so credible that it had carry. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, totally.
Like I said earlier, I used to, when I first started college, used to fuck around with people by telling them like a little tidbit of a story of something, or just a little shit bit of information, and then just seeing whether or not they were gullible enough to believe it, and then finding out how long it got recalled for.
Yeah. And how far it's spread.
I'll give you some confidence. I've never done it to you, man. A lot of people I did it with, I'm no longer in contact with.
Yeah.
More on cause, I'm assuming down to the fact that someone with that level of gullibility I couldn't keep around.
Yeah, I tend not to engage in the gossip thing as well, so it probably wouldn't have
But it's you
gotten
fucking.
around. Things die with me.
It's what it is.
Especially gossip. I've not too much time for gossip. It's fun. It is fun. But I prefer to talk about aliens.
It's nice to occasionally get updates on people, just to know where they're at in life.
Yeah, oh yeah,
But you
updates,
could fathom that gossip to a degree.
Yeah, I suppose.
Imagine when it ramps
I'd
up.
rather talk about the person I'm talking to than
Yeah.
someone else if we're going to talk about people.
Yeah, but I just fucking, it's an interesting thing actually, the whole gossip thing, and I find it hilarious that we're at a point now where it's a problem that that you've got these gossip mags, dropping information left, right, and centre about people, and then it causing suicides and other shit like that. But there's this vicious looping cycle, because it's these gossip magazines and gossip column, and this need to have to be invasive on people's lives, that's causing these things. But people are feeding the machine, because the magazines that are doing this are the ones that are reporting about it happening.
Yeah.
And about all the inside scoops with other people that knew such and such and shit and stuff, and it's a vicious cycle that just spins around, and people can't accept the fact that even when they're kicking off about it being a thing, that they are the ones causing it by feeding it, because if you just stop buying the magazines and stop clicking on the links, that company's going to collapse.
True. They just keep shoving it in front of you and making it the only avenue. Like if you want to read a newspaper,
It's possible.
You've got to read some bullshit. Unless you buy the Morning Star, which is £1.20 for like 6 pages. I saw one in the services the other day. And I was like, oh, Morning Star, fucking hell. It's like the only left-leaning newspaper in Britain.
It is possible it is possible to carry full genuine conventional protest against a media organisation as in mass. Look at Liverpool.
Yeah.
The Sun newspaper.
Not there.
No one will sell the Sun newspaper. They will get because of that shit with fucking. My missus will kill me for not remembering this. Something that happened at a stadium. I can't remember what it's called. But I remember the Sun stories accusing the Liverpool supporters of robbing people's corpses and other things like that.
Yeah, there was some bullshit.
And then it come out of it, and then it come forwards about it being a lie and shit like that. But yeah, basically because of this fucking thing anyway, the Sun newspaper, no one in Liverpool will sell it kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
it's a shame that it takes that much tragedy on such a local level for that to happen, because they peddle a lot of bullshit.
It's what it always does though, it has to take
into
that.
illegal wars. Journalism should be a cool thing. It should be, again, a detective sort of thing, where journalists should be trying to find out the truth.
But they need somewhere to put it, and this is the thing. I suppose the thing is as well with the internet. The internet is that tool to be able to do that. But then where did he post it to? Because some websites where you'd want to post it to, take it. But most of the time they're posting up fake stories.
The problem is the problem. It's you've got everything is on the internet.
Yeah.
And that means that everything's on the internet. There's so much stuff that you have to sift through.
Yeah.
And it just takes developing a sense for sifting through information, I suppose. And critical thinking, I suppose the internet really takes learning more critical thinking, whereas being taught something in school, especially in the modern day and age, like school is like the American school system where they're like, remember how to pass the test.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Teach the test sort of thing. I think that's probably not a great way of going. But the internet, I think, encourages critical thinking because you're presented with 3 different versions of events.
Yeah.
And you have to work it out yourself.
Well, the problem is, most people don't try and work it out themselves. Most people read the headline, but then wouldn't think. I at no point have that hesitation to go, what's the credibility of this? It's.
I think it's becoming more widespread. I think also the media are playing a part in that because I sort of like to think that the media is eating itself because it can't report on any news at the moment because all the things that are happening are to do with corruption in government and like it's every time something big happens the news is just like look at those migrants or something else, you know.
Look at what they're doing now. Like, look what's come of this whole thing of the protest outside that, like, with printing presses, like printing factories that printed specifically Murdoch's papers.
Yeah.
And then now, a group of protesters they're trying to label as being terrorists.
Yeah, what did they went with?
But that's not terrorism.
Criminals, didn't they? No, it's not terrorism.
Terrorism is supposed the instinct the definition of terrorism is to cause some degree of terror in the name of something.
What they're doing, causing Murdoch terror.
Yeah, fucking all he did was all they've been able to charge him with is obstructing the highway, which is what they were doing.
That's all they can ever charge anyone with.
You can't claim someone. You can't claim a gang. Not even a gang. A group of protesters.
Oh, you can now.
An accumulation.
More than 6 of them.
Oh, it's fucking like, but being able to define them as being like a criminal gang, you know, like a fucking mafia or so. It's like, what? Because they were like, well, no, we're protesting these papers, so we're going to stop them being printed so people don't have the lies imposed on them and shit.
And they could do that socially distanced, which they did, I think. They looked pretty socially distanced. They were spread out.
As far as I'm aware, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like the issue is that they're trying to. That's a fact that you can't then you can't label them as being terrorists for doing something peaceful.
No.
They didn't in any way cause any terror.
No, not one bit. And even if some people do anything, it doesn't mean the whole thing is a terrorist thing. Like, I get that angle very much from Trump at the moment where, yeah, there were some people doing some pretty mental shit in America, like burning stuff and whatnot. But he's trying to make out like the left are terrorists. Anyone who's leaning that way, it seems to be trying to get people angry at the left and, well, get his base angry at the left, which is pretty easy.
Yeah.
And say, oh, look what the left are doing, look what the left are doing. And the left's like half of America. You know, it's loads of people, and there's like a few people burning shit and smashing shit, which is just a bit of rioting. You know, there've been 30 deaths since the George Floyd protest started, in and around the protest.
Yeah.
And they're all, there's some police, there's some accidents, there's a couple of unexplained shootings, and there's people panicking and running people over.
I know something about the unexplained shootings.
Oh yeah.
There was something I was reading. There's somebody saying about the fact there's an issue with a lot of protesters going out with firearms.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say, like, you've seen all over the US, people going out with, like, assault rifles over the shoulders and stuff, you know, because, their right to bear arms and whatnot. Obviously not intending to initially use them.
Yeah. Hoping they might get a chance, though.
But
sometimes.
I think it's just going out to just flash fucking golden balls. It's like, this is my time to shine. Walk around looking boss with it.
Like the protesters?
Protesters walking around with like rifles and stuff.
Like the Black Lives Matter protest. Yeah.
Because apparently a lot of these unexplained shootings have been accidental discharges from the rifles. As you think about, these guys are going out, and the main thing, like, where the protests are kind of like simmering and sitting, people are chatting, the guys with rifles, and we still be guys with rifles, talking about rifles and showing each other their rifles. Yeah. And it takes one of them to be like, oh shit.
Statistically.
But if you fuck around with a rifle in your hands, statistically you're going to shoot. You might not hit someone particularly, but it takes one gunshot and everybody suddenly starts stampeding and everyone else is pulling the rifles out.
Anyone else who's armed, Jesus. I think that's the thing. One of the things with guns in it is it increases your likelihood of being in a shootout.
Yeah,
The number one thing you can do to increase your likelihood of being in a shootout is have a gun.
I remember reading about there was an autistic teenager who was shot 7 times by the police. They're alive as far as I'm aware still. They're in like hospital with some severe injuries, but mother's caught like child's having an episode of some sort, rings the police, needs some kind of it was like a family some intervention team or something like that. They sent police officers around. Whatever's happened, the police, I shouldn't laugh, police officers have gone in, and according to, as far as I can remember from what I read, it said that the police got in and she said shouting gunshots, and then she thought her son was dead, and the police didn't tell her anything. Paramedics just turned up, didn't tell her a word, and I think she didn't find out like her son was in hospital until he was in hospital, kind of thing.
That's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, but the police literally turned up. Like, were sending the intervention team to basically just kind of restrain and calm him down while he's having an episode. But then, in the process of going round for someone having a bit of a mental break based on just their mental, like some natural fucking well-known medical condition.
Yeah.
The police have gone around and then somehow that's escalated into them shooting said person.
Fucking stupid, some of them.
The funny thing is, I don't think
And jumpy.
a lot of these news stories tend to make it out past borders. Because think how in the US you've got so many fucking news channels, and people will only particularly watch one news channel per dependent on their state. So they'll only get fed the information from a particular news source they watch. Same as us, we don't find everything out from America. One used to do Harambe headlines when we had the radio show. But I used to scavenge the internet because I used to go looking for these smaller stations. I used to hit Florida so fucking much. But just like I used to look for these stations because of the news stories of like things that had happened that you wouldn't find out about unless you went looking for it. So a lot of these shootings, because I used to see a lot of things about people being shot and 5 people killed and stuff. But these are not stories that ever make it to us, so we have no idea of the capacity of how many things are happening. People in the US might not even have an idea of what are the capacity of issues happening in a different state to the one they're in, because of how news travels. It depends who's reporting what and moving it where.
And that's another thing about the internet, I suppose, isn't it? That's opened us up to potentially you can have global news if you decide to. You don't automatically get it or anything.
Yeah, you've got to look for it, man, to be able to find things out. You'd be surprised.
That's good because you can pursue your interest.
You'd be surprised at some of the shit you used to go on in Florida.
I bet. That's Florida man, isn't it? It's the whole thing.
Police called into an IHOP, an International House of Pancakes, because there was a man dressed as a clown smoking meth in the toilet.
That is dangerous.
That's Florida, mate. And numerous other things. Coincidentally, most of them are in Florida, and you happen in IHOPs.
In IHOP?
Yeah. It's the swamp weather.
That is freaked out, so we seem to quickly say. You've been listening to the Casual Times podcast. You should put on some smooth jazz and run yourself a nice hot bath.
That sounded. Your voice needs to be like.
Okay, we'll edit that bit out.
What, you recording?
Yeah.
All right. Christ, don't tell me that filter comes off.
That's probably enough banjo. I'd say. Like you say, there could be a copyright issue.
You never know, man.
You never know. Could be. You can only play so many notes.
There was a thing I read.
Careful, like, you went out of the camera.
There's a thing I read the other day. No, it was earlier today. Don't matter anyway. On the concept of time. Facebook were testing AI bots. And they set 2 off against each other to negotiate, basically like simulate negotiation of trade. and he had to turn them off because they developed their own language.
I remember, yeah. That is pretty crazy. I think that we've not quite made a thing that can fully allow an artificial intelligence to express itself, and I think that's what's happening there, is they're quickly trying to get to being able to express themselves.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing code and line and stuff, and I suppose some of it's shorthand as well. But then that exposes it to ideas and stuff, and
But it's easier, I feel like, but the concept that it being easier for them to just understand their own language designed for their own capabilities, rather than forcing them to develop to have to use our language, which might be hard for them to say.
And we're getting that with like software and programs and stuff as well, where you give something a set of rules and then let it work it out for itself.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, which seems to work a lot better. There's that. Have you seen that running model?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, that thing runs like nobody's business. That's about as good as you can run if you're that shape, I reckon. And the balance thing's genius. Computers always seem to come up with this extra thing, like with Go, when AlphaGo won. It made a stupid move at the beginning, and they were like, "That's stupid. Why have you done that?" And everyone was like, "Oh, it clearly doesn't work." And then like 30 moves later or something, they were like, "Oh no, wait, hang on, wait, what?" Like he sacrificed something or like did a weird thing that no human had ever done, and it only learnt by playing itself. It was just given the rules and then told to play itself. And it just did new things, and they said it was like watching an alien do arithmetic. Like it just had its own way of doing that no human had ever thought of, which is pretty cool. So we'll get some new ideas. There'll be a new thing pulling ideas down from the idea space.
But just wait until somebody accidentally touches a tab of LSD, and then as they're about to put a USB into a computer, it transfers onto the USB.
Oh, mate.
Introduce psychosilibin to the digital age.
Yeah, no, they'll see in trip vision all the time, because they'll be seeing like a quantum reality. They'll be seeing everything as shifting probabilities.
I suppose, yeah, when you get into stuff like
they'll
that,
have like less, like we've got a limited wavelength of light that we can perceive, haven't we? If you had maybe even software, but definitely you could make some kind of hardware that visualized other spectrums of light too. You could have full spectrum light, you could have all sorts of extra ability, like upgradey stuff that you'd need to put a machine in a human to do.
You know, it's interesting, I think, that if you went to a planet that had a different coloured sun, what would your perception of reality be?
It would probably take some time to shift, you know.
Because light spectrums are quite specific.
Yeah.
And we know
length of the day as well.
You know, we know for a fact that the light given from our suns, is practically white. It's like, well, it's white light really, and that particular light spectrum, it affects plant development and growth in a certain way. A different coloured sun is going to have a completely different effect on a different planet, and those plants will have grown specifically to adhere to those particular lights and such.
Yeah, and I think if you had like different sun, different light, you're just gonna have different variants of that. If life manages to get a foothold, like some people are like, oh, maybe there's bacterial life, but there's probably not aliens. And it's like, well, if there's bacterial life, then it's just time.
What's interesting to think as well is that white light contains a mixture of all spectrums. So if you were on a planet that had a blue sun, our plants inherently green because they don't use a vast amount of green light, which is why the if I'm correct in this, bollock me if I'm wrong. Plants, like the majority, you get the majority of light leaves, you get green because they reflect the green light spectrum. There's a very small percentage of it. But it's the reason why, as far as I'm aware. And if you're on a blue sun, does that mean the plants would have blue leaves? Maybe they'd have red leaves.
Yeah, it'd be some other colour perhaps.
Yeah,
it's all different.
I say, but then if it's a blue sun, is it going to have red light spectrum?
Well, a blue sun's going to have a lot of green in.
Yeah. So then will that still reflect the blue? But
so,
then
yeah, and on the colour wheel, probably red and green are opposite. So blue would be yellow, actually.
If there was red involved, it'd be more purple. So if you had a purple sun, that entire planet would be perfectly developed for growing cannabis.
I tell you what, I'm thinking, when we get to like planting loads of veg and stuff, I want to do loads of purple veg, because they say like the whole, and there is some truth in it. It's not entirely accurate across the board, but like that certain coloured foods are good for certain parts of your body, and sometimes those colours kind of line up. Like red foods are generally good antioxidants, stuff like that. And purple food is just magic. Anything purple, it's just all of them.
Right.
So I'm gonna
It
grow
is
loads of purple
plausible.
stuff.
The certain mixtures of minerals and such cause certain colouring effects. You
But
can't.
these are genetically purple. There will be some. The depth of the effect could be genetically variable.
How are they genetically purple if they've been modified?
Bread.
Okay, bread.
Bread. Bread. That thing we've been doing forever that proves evolution.
True, but that is the reference of a GMO. It's been genetically modified.
But that's doing it in a very different manner, where you've got a lot more freedom, which could equal a lot more potential harm. If you tweak, because we're tweaking things, like we call it junk DNA, but that just means DNA we don't understand what it does, and that's our DNA. Like most of it's stuff we don't understand. I don't think we should be thinking that we understand things well enough, perhaps, to at least be doing that on a big scale. Like I can see some things, and I'm all for progressive science. You know, if Edison was scared of the consequences, we'd all still be in the dark. And I'm all for making inventions and stuff, and I'm also fairly anarchic. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Edison isn't Thomas Edison.
I think so.
Ruthless person.
I might have
Terrible
misquoted
person.
it. Well,
I think he's the reason Tesla.
it was a lost reference.
Dead
You know,
trouble, man.
dropped it there for the lost fans who've made it into the third hour.
Fuck Lost, man. Saying that, if you were dedicated enough to Lost to watch it to the very end, you'd be dedicated enough to make it to this part of the podcast.
Quite possibly. Hello, you nutter.
I think we should probably call it that, man.
I think we probably